gonna steal all side, ride me, baby. I ain't never gonna stop. Come on now, baby. Ride me straight to the top. Yeah, straight to the top.
1, 2, 3, slap. All right, let's make a go of this.
Bad Ideas, Good Stories podcast number 10?
11. Yeah, you weren't here.
I wasn't here for 10.
That's right.
Yeah. So I'll talk about that real quick, I guess.
Yeah.
So,
Catch up.
I wasn't here last week because I got a COVID test and I was fucking supposed to stay away from everybody until we knew for sure. So by Wednesday, I think it was, I got my negative and everything was cool and I hadn't had symptoms in over a week. And even my symptoms were runny nose and diarrhea, which I assumed was from something I'd eat or something else.
That happens to me twice a week.
That's what I'm saying, right? So I wasn't horribly concerned about it, but I still didn't think I should fucking be around people because it's pretty reckless if I'm like, well, I might. Well, I'm still going to go out anyways.
I was thinking we should make a little plexiglass thing just to make it look in between us to make it look all...
I don't know. I got to be able to taste you, Pat. Otherwise, I just can't even interact.
Otherwise, did it really happen? Did it really happen?
Yeah, you don't linger. Yeah, so that was that. Wasn't a big deal. I would say anybody else who's concerned at all, you had contact or near someone, go get a fucking test. Go get
What do you call 811 to check
811, and they'll probably tell you not to bother with it if you don't have any severe symptoms. That was what it was with me, and I said, well, but I mean, I do have some. And even people I was with that were at the restaurant where we potentially, possibly had contact, they never had any symptoms either. So I'm assuming it wasn't an issue at all, but that's what you're supposed to do, right?
I think Saskatchewan across the board has been safer than sorry. I saw this thing. It's like, let's keep Saskatchewan flat, like flattening the curve.
Yeah.
And I thought that was really neat. But we're fairly socially distanced already as a province. We're very sparsely populated, and I think there's a lot of people that have been doing the best practices to keep each other at a distance, and things like that.
Yep.
So,
well, when you go every store you go into, someone's got a mask on and they're sanitizing you. That wasn't everywhere. Not everywhere was doing that. So, well, I mean, even that is a step in the right direction. And when I go out, I don't see a ton of people with masks on, just the general population. But everybody is keeping it apart. And like I said, everybody who's working in these environments that are actually there, they're all as safe as they can be. Everybody's fucking squirted with hand sanitizer and shit, right?
Everybody's, right from the get-go. Like, we shut down our tattoo shop as soon as that stuff started coming in. We're like, well, it's better to be safe than sorry.
Yep.
And a few days later, they said, well, guess what? You were going to have to get shut down. So we were closed down for a couple months. It's funny, when I called 811 for my kid, one of the major options, you call 811 and they say, is this about COVID? Press 1. Is this another issue? Press 2. So if you've got questions about whether to go check, just dial that number and they'll lead you in the right direction.
Well, and it was quick for me too. I know some people have been waiting a little bit, but I got booked for my test Monday, had it Tuesday, had my results Wednesday.
Well, that's pretty good.
Or was it Thursday? Yeah. Wednesday or Thursday anyways, I had my results. It wasn't long.
Well, we missed you.
Yeah, I missed you guys too. Actually, it kind of fucked with me a little bit last week because this is like therapy for me. So when I don't get to come down here and do this, it's like, well, I didn't get a chance to vent anything, or
I hear that.
Fucking, unless I did in some other avenue, but I didn't have a bunch of that last week. And fuck, dude, it was a rough one. Like, so even just kind of having like the possibility that's kind of hanging over me for a couple days kind of fucked with me, and then I couldn't work for a week. So I was like, well.
That's that social distancing thing.
Yeah, I didn't work. I didn't fucking. I just stayed put. Didn't go and get groceries or fuck all even.
Are employers taking that into account if somebody has to leave work, or is it just you miss those wages?
I really don't know, honestly. It seems like if you can get the curb or get some EI,
kick them to the curb.
That's how you deal with that, right? Because I don't know that a lot of employers are doing that, and I'm technically self-employed, so it's kind of on my own ass.
Yeah, so I think you could get served for at least one pay period for your missing work. If you
possibly, I'll have to look into it, I guess. But anyways, just that kind of shit fucking with me, and then I had like some major car issues all of a sudden that it was like the expense was going to be as much as my car was worth to get it fixed. And
that's a real balance, isn't it?
I'm like, fuck me, just pile it on. And then, we fucking go camping this weekend, and I bought this brand new fucking air mattress, double high, automatic pump. I'm like, I'm not sleeping on the fucking floor this year. Yeah. 20 minutes for there, it's losing air. Hey, I'm like, how is this fucking possible? I literally just took this thing out of the fucking box. So, yeah, man, it was just like constant dick in the ass kind of fucking week. And I Wednesday, Thursday, I got in a real fucking like serious depression. Like, Wednesday was pretty bad, and Thursday I woke up crying.
Really?
Yeah. Oh, fuck yeah. Yeah, and it was rough. Like,
Sometimes when it rains, it pours.
That was what it was. You know what I mean? And I hated it. I hated feeling like that. I hated feeling fucking powerless and pathetic while I was stuck in the fucking bed, not able to move my arms. But I got through it quicker than I have been recently, I feel. And afterwards, it was kind of like, again, doing like some emotional work. You know what I mean? Like, you gotta sit there and be in the dark for a bit and just be quiet and just fucking think and be mad at yourself or mad at whoever you're fucking mad at or whatever. And then take a bunch of deep breaths and try to get some shit back into perspective and realize what's actually important and what's actually happening. And then everything kind of gets better. And I feel like I did some work when I did that. It wasn't just a punishment anymore when I get depressed. It's kind of like when I get into it, I'm like, okay, fuck you. I guess I'll do this then, you know? Like, it's like going to the gym. I don't want to fucking do it, but I guess you're going to do it.
I don't know. With me, when it rains, I feel like it's pouring. You know what I mean? And sometimes, and like I notice I get short with my partner sometimes, or I get short with my dogs because they're annoying. But it's not really them that's getting to me, and I have to sit back.
You're the only thing that's changed. They've been doing the same shit the whole time.
Yeah.
Right? They bark this time, you're like, what the fuck? And they bark some other time, like, oh, adorable. You know,
so this week I had to take a step back and sit outside with a coffee, watching the street go by, say, what's really bugging me here?
Yeah.
What's this rooted in? And when did I start feeling agitated? That everything else was also agitating me. You know what I mean? What was the root thing that really... And me personally, it's because I saw a side view video that I didn't know I was being videotaped in. I'm like, oh my god, I totally haven't been training as much as I thought I had. I need to do something. And I didn't even realize that had set me off for the rest of like
Alfred Hitchcock looking motherfucker in
right?
the video wearing my clothes.
Who is that guy?
Wait a minute.
And then that set me off that everything else was just annoying me, but the real thing was this like self-image stuff that I hadn't really unpacked, and I had to go back there, and my partner, she's so fucking great. She's like, okay, let's just sit here and, you know, tell me what's on your mind. And she very gently, do you think it has anything to do with this? Maybe? And I'm like, fuck, you're too nice to me. You know, I'd just be tearing a strip off of me, you know? So yeah, I went back there and I realized, okay, this is what the real issue is, you know? So if it rains, I feel like it's pouring sometimes.
Well, and it's funny you say that was like your core kind of trigger for the catalyst for the event.
Everything else annoyed me from that point on.
Well,
you know?
and I feel like a lot of times when I get into my shit, like that magnifies for me too. You know, I mean, as soon as I'm in a bad mood, and it's like, oh, these pants don't even fucking fit. Perfect! You know, like, fuck. And yeah,
Life.
and then if you're around people that are like, well, no, you're a cool guy. You know, like, you're doing good. You're like, fuck you. You don't know what kind of piece of shit I am. And you're like, well, no, you're not though. You know, but you're like, well, I think I am though. And that's the thing, like my outside, what everybody else sees is never fucking what I think. No. You know what I mean? It's either worse or better, but it's never the same thing. You know, like, I think I look pretty good today. And then I'm like, you catch a side angle and you're like, fuck, okay, I get that.
I was feeling pretty good. I wasn't looking pretty good.
But then when I'm down real hard, people are like, fuck, you seem fine, dude. And I'm like, I know, right?
I maintain it well.
But this weekend was good for me, though, because it was like a total wipeout weekend. Like, no responsibility, no fucking... No worries other than like just drink a bit more and eat a bit more and then fucking don't crash a mini bike. That was the bulk of it.
These are good things.
Which I was one of the only persons who didn't, I think, because everybody else did.
Yeah.
Oh, it's just slamming all over the place. Seasick went to the hospital first night.
Jesus Christ. Just for those people that aren't familiar with our close-knit group of friends, these guys, this badass group of motorcycle riders with all the tattoos and the choppers, also have an affinity for mini bikes that they customize little tiny 1970s style mini bikes.
The weirder, the better.
Yeah, I've seen the new developments of lights and strobe lights. And
well, those were all mandatory safety features to add for this reoccurring weekend if we're going to have it. It was like, everybody's wearing a helmet. Oh. Everybody's got fucking lights on, so you're ripping around in the dark. You're not just hitting shit. And yeah, so they got overboard with the lights and overboard with the helmets. And I look to see what Mitch wears. He's got football gear. He's got shin pads. And,
Holy.
And oh yeah, if he's listening, fucking congratulations, buddy. Him and Kennedy got fucking engaged this weekend. So
congratulations.
I'm excited for them. It was hilarious the way he did it and kind of sweet all at the same time. He was like, he got us all lined up like he wants to take a picture. And we'd already taken a picture earlier. And we're all kind of like, what the fuck, you know? And he's getting mad and he fucking grabs his beer. He's like, we waited long enough. He's like, smashes his beer on the ground. And somebody's like, oh, better go get the Hulk hands. Because Mitch has got these green fucking Hulk hands. And it's like, he starts getting too out of control. It's like, put those on because he's going to punch somebody and they're not even foamy. So before he got all Hulk hand up, he stomps over and smashes his beer and then gets down on one knee and pulls up the rig. And that caught all of us by fucking surprise. Like, we had no idea. He didn't tell anybody. So it was pretty dope. It was a good way to do it. So again, shit like that happening on this weekend was just like, I'll fix my power steering later, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
I'll get this shit sorted out. It's just, and again, all my deficiencies come to the surface as soon as I feel that. Whether somebody else sees me, I'm always like, I'm too fucking poor, I'm too fat, I'm too lazy, you know, whatever it is.
Yeah, I hear that.
And then it's like, yeah, well, I'll figure it out again, but I just, right in this moment, I'm like, fuck, I hate this feeling of inadequacy.
Well, that's one narrative, right? It's an emotional narrative that's like a critical consciousness versus your supportive consciousness, and like it depends on which one you want to listen to. You can listen to your deficiencies or your attributes and your strengths. And
well, if there's balance to that, I think it's awesome, right? Because it keeps you in check. My problem right now is when I start doing that work, a lot of times I just get depressed about it. I'm not like fired up about it. I'm like, yeah, I should fucking go for a skate. You know what I mean? I'm like, I should go for a fucking skate.
But I don't deserve it or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't do these 5 other things I wanted to get done today. And, even though me going for a skate is about a 15-minute experience nowadays, it's like pump, pump, sweat, sweat, gasp, gasp.
That
I
was
guess
a
I'm
thing.
done, yeah. And so, yeah, I can squeeze it in any time. I just always put this shit in myself, and nobody else is. Nobody else is like, well, did you make sure and do this and that before you skateboarded?
Yeah.
Nobody's fucking saying that to me.
I think that's self-care. We have to start prioritizing self-care and self-caring talk, as opposed to that like self-destructive or self-depreciating talk where it's like you're not good enough. That's listening to a part of me that may or may not be accurate that I listened to way too long.
Yeah, fucking right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I allowed it to dictate that narrative in my life, which led me to depression or addiction or any of that other stuff that you're not worthy, you're a screw up, you aren't a real man, you're all of that shit. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. And you know what?
Well, because I feel like I'd be that judgmental of somebody else. Why am I not?
I'm trying not to be that either.
Well, exactly. That's the problem too, eh?
I'm working on that, right?
Fuck's sakes.
So yeah, that's a funny thing. When I go to the gym, I've got 3 gym memberships. Get this, okay? So yeah, one is at a powerlifting gym, Ironworks, where I am the weakest and smallest guy that trains there, and the other is at Good Life, which is the beautiful people gym, where I'm like the chubbiest and shortest guy that works out there. And then there's Planet Fitness, where I bring down the property value because I'm like the thick tattooed maniac that's listening to like heavy metal and grunting when I'm not supposed to. So either way, I got to deal with a little ball of stuff when I go out to train, and I got to choose what mood I'm in to be depreciated when I go, right? Do I want to be the tiny little weak guy, or do I want to be
shitty about today?
Yeah, exactly. The ugly like chubby guy, or do I want to be the freak that's like a little too hardcore for the environment? I usually choose the hardcore freak, because then I could be the tattooed, grunty, sweaty guy that everybody leaves alone at Planet Fitness. But yeah. So just which angle of depreciation do I want to work with today?
That's pretty funny. I never thought of it like that.
Yeah.
But yeah. I can see that.
I've been wanting to get more into trail biking. I got a nice bike off Buddy Switzerland there, and I should go down there and check out the trails. But again, that's one of those hurdles. What if I get there and I'm no good at it? What if I injure myself? All the what ifs that shut me down. It's that critical kind of like. What is it? It's a loop. It's like a worry loop. It's like, this isn't going to turn out good, so I'm not going to do anything. And because I didn't do anything, of course, I'm never going to start. It's because it's probably not going to turn out good anyway. And I just stay in that loop. When if I just break that loop and I'm like, I'm going to go do the thing. And if it sucks, it sucks. But if it doesn't, I'll come back happy that I did the thing. Yeah, I break that loop and I start setting a new loop for me.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, and it's funny too, because when you're weighing it, I feel like that negative, I'm gonna get hurt, I won't be able to fucking do it, whatever, that comes from experiences where you did get hurt, you couldn't do it, you fucking were embarrassed. But how many of those experiences do you have that went the other way? That you started doing something, you had no idea, and you sucked at it, but then you kept fucking doing it, and now you're very skilled at it. Well,
that fear conditioning, right, would be, okay, let's say I tried skateboarding, I dislocated my ankle. I'm never skateboarding again. Now, if I and that's a very infantile attitude. It creates that loop, right? Oh, stay safe, because if you do it, you're going to get hurt. Well, hurt's inevitable, but and dislocating your ankle, that might happen or it might not, but it's only going to happen X amount out of all the times you do it. But that fear of that thing happening
always there
is the larger controlling aspect, Even with all the guys getting together, I have a lot of old friends there, but I've got baggage with a couple of them, right? So there's that aspect of intimidation of me going to this environment where there might be trouble or there might be hassles. So I almost defeat...
And the only way there'd be trouble or hassle is if you brought it.
Right?
No. Yes, there would. No. You know this, that it's not somebody else is going to spin it up.
It's a possibility. No, but it's in me, and and it might mar my thing. But I could also go with a positive aspect and spend time with the people I really jive with, and that's my priority. But so the other side is just like fuck it, And I was a little bit. I was like, oh, I didn't even know that thing was happening this weekend, But then again, but then again. would I have just, or has history said, well, you've caused issues every time you've shown up, and there's been some sort of thing, so we just not gonna tell you when we're doing it anymore.
Well,
So
if anything, I feel it was like people thought you might be uncomfortable then.
Yeah, well,
you know what I
that's
mean. Like,
yeah.
it wasn't like exclude. It was like, well,
Pat sets fires.
If we go and tell them this is
Burns
going to be
bridges.
something that's going to spark a thing that, like, you know, now it's a fucking argument when it was like, well, we want to invite him, but like, what if he doesn't want that? You know, like,
I don't even care.
Yeah.
It's the same thing with going to punk rock shows. In a lot of ways, when I got older, I realized that I had a lot of, like, for lack of a better term, history and with different individuals on different levels. People I've dated, people I've had issues with, people I've gotten in like fistfights with, and no matter where you go, there's going to be that baggage. So my social anxiety would just say, fuck it, I'm not going to these environments. And I really would have to push myself as being sober into these environments that were potentially uncomfortable, when once upon a time I just would have put booze on it. You know what I mean? Oh, social lubricant? I don't give a shit. Blah, blah, blah. And then I'm blacked out or near blacked out, and I'm belligerent and a lunatic again. Yeah. So this thing I'm using to make my the last time I caused an issue easier is causing an issue this time. It's just ding, 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 ding. So I have to break that script somehow. I have to get over the fear and anxiety and just walk into it either way, you know?
Well, and it's tough, like you said, like with like punk rock, for example. Like anything you're into that's a smaller scene, it's tough because like if you have friendships and you date within that scene, you know what I mean? Like you're gonna continue to see these people for 20 fucking years, even if you haven't talked to them for 15.
Break up with somebody from the punk rock scene, it's like splitting a child after a relationship. What gig are you going to? Am I going to see you there? Is it going to be drama? Blah, blah, blah. The fucking punk scene is the most incestuous scene I'd ever fucking met. It's like people cannot figure out how to date anybody outside these like 15, 20 people. You know, it blows my mind. And there's baggage because
checks out.
Yeah, because somebody will date somebody because it's like, oh yeah, you like the same music, I like your hair, I like the bands that you like, and we should totally, we have so much in common. Things don't work out, they're gonna go to somebody else in the scene that also shares all those common interests.
The guy you've been sharing jackets with or some shit.
Yeah, you're your homie, and then next thing you know, it's like fucking drama because, you know, you're dating my ex-girlfriend or some bullshit like that, and that's so fucking weird, and it's caused so many issues over the years. Now that's why I really like dating outside my social circle, finding people with common interests that aren't necessarily listening to the same music or going to the same bars or liking the same scene, because if we break up or something goes south, I still have my stuff, and it's my friends, and it's
you
my...
you get your little safety zone.
Yeah, yeah.
Plus, a lot of people that live in that world that you're putting in there, a lot of them come from a fundamentally kind of fucked background. So they're
Crazy
not
and
the
traumatized
best
as
of people
fuck.
to be in relationships with to begin with. It's like, we got all this cool shit in common. It's like, yeah, we got a bunch of other shit in common too, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
the shit that doesn't make us suitable for fucking relationships with.
Yeah, we
the
got a lot
same
of
kind
trauma in common,
yeah,
as
right?
opposed to our healthy hobbies or whatever, you know. I met somebody in yoga, she's really good for me, as opposed to I met somebody at a black metal show who really likes to cut herself.
In the alley.
Yeah. She's into drugs and cutting herself. I think we have a lot in
See your
common.
bottle of cop, I fell in love.
Anyways, so yeah.
Well, and speaking of head injuries,
Oh yeah. So my kid got a concussion at the skate park. She doesn't remember what happened. I'm like, what happened? She's like, I don't know, and tears running down. She blacked out. She's just like, apparently she woke up with kids standing over her, like, are you okay? So I kind of freaked out. I got a call from a skater that used to run Dunas, and he's like, apparently he walked up to my daughter. He's like, you know me, right? And she's like, he's go tattooed up. I was like, well, I know your dad. I'm making a call. So he called me, and then I'm getting text. Oh, your kid hit her head at the skate park. So I went down there. Fuck, I got in gridlock like traffic. I just about went into oncoming traffic. I was so freaked out, but luckily my partner got there first. And I don't know. The best we could figure out is that she dropped in on her roller skates and smacked her head. And the kids, they're like, we didn't see it, but we heard it, you know, like a cantaloupe hitting the fucking concrete. Yeah. And I'm like, oh my God. So I get her, I'm like, let's get some food in you, let's check you out. And then she's slurring while trying to talk to me, like, I don't know what's going on, Dad. And I'm like, holy fuck. And she's trying to take sips of Pepsi and it's drooling out her mouth. And I'm like, my kid's fucking handicapped. And I'm like, Jesus Christ. So I'm checking the internet. What do I do? And I call her mom. And we figured that it wasn't too bad. And I'm like, well, she needs some rest. Like, maybe I'll give her some sleep. There's apparently conflicting whether or not we're supposed to let a kid with a concussion have a nap.
out.
So I tucked her in, you know, she napped for a couple hours, and I woke her up, and all of a sudden she was sharp again, and I'm like, holy Christ. But I called 811, you know, and I'm like, hey, these are the symptoms, and they said, well, take her to the fucking doctor and get her checked out. And, you know, they're good. She's good.
Yeah.
I'm thinking at age 13 you can take some smacks to your head. You know I did.
Well, that's it, right? Like, I mean,
At 45 I couldn't do that.
I've been concussed a few times.
Yeah,
and,
I'm pretty sure I have.
Yeah. No, it's definitely something you can recover from, but fuck, you don't want to do it a bunch.
Man.
Hey, put your goddamn helmet on, kid.
Yeah.
I don't go in the skate park without one on. Again, I'm too old to be fucking crippled because of that shit. Plus, I've had concussions.
When you're moshing kids, wear a helmet.
Yeah, fuck, pretty wild, might as well. Although that would just get wild. Then that's a reason to kick somebody in the back of the head. You got a fucking helmet on.
I remember in the pit one time, I was like giving her, I think it might have been Dayglow abortions. I went down with one arm up, right when my buddy's knee came fucking right up, and I went batong, and just ring her like ween. I'm like, holy Christ! It took me a second or two to realize where I was. I'll guarantee you I've been concussed from some of that shit. Headbutts, accidental headbutts when you're diving around. I had the Smalls played, my one buddy Bucky. He for a long time, living in a small city, any band that came to your city was a big band. This is the punk rock show, and who cares if they're from fucking Tabor, Alberta, or wherever the fuck they're from. They're touring to Saskatoon. Everybody goes out. So Smalls were kind of like a blues metal band, but all the punks seemed to love them. And my buddy Bucky decides he's going to stage dive, and he's up on stage. Yeah, let's fucking go! And he dives, and the crowd splits, and he face plants into the fucking floor. Paramedics had to come, put him on a stretcher, and drag him out. The gig was shut down until he was out of there. And I'm like, it's a punk scene, I guess. That's why some clubs say no stage diving, no crowd surfing. Yeah. And there's that movement in the hardcore scene where they call it head walking, right? Where you just walk on the crowd. You don't even give a shit on who you're landing. You just look for people and step on their faces and walk across the crowd. There's a level in the hardcore scene that's taken it to a real hostile, malevolent, misanthropic element.
You gotta fucking tape your fucking hands and get them over.
Crowd killing, where you intentionally run into the crowd and just try and take people out. I'm like, and then if you get mad at those guys, you're starting a pit beef. Oh I don't understand that shit.
And myself, I've had my nose broken in the pit, and I've definitely been hit so hard that I've thrown up. You know what I mean? Yeah, holy fuck! And I don't do that to other motherfuckers because that's exactly what's going to happen, right? That's not fun, man. I don't know what the fucking point is.
Well, there used to be a community policing kind of reliability where everybody in the pit knew we were all there to have fun. Yeah. And if there was that drunken goon who's having too much fun at the expense of other people's fun, he was usually checked or bounced. Or if there was the outsider that came in that didn't know how to do shit and he was just going to be a fucking violent dick, he was bounced or checked. Yeah. But everybody knew the acceptable parameters of friendly aggression that was allowed in that environment. Oh, we're all in this together. Yeah. But when you stepped outside that, accidentally or purposefully, you were checked. And
you could push and shove and shit, but you couldn't come in with balled fists and just start fucking hammering people, But that changed because now fucking I've gone to shows and I've seen that and I'm just like, well, everybody else seems cool, that I guess I'll just stay out of it because it's not my thing. But
there's goons and and different genres of music crossover, right? There's that hardcore, the metalcore kind of scene where people went from just kind of that back and forth kind of bouncing off of each other to literally punching and elbowing, right? And then they wanted to do the Soul Train Ninja thing where everybody backs off and they do their kung fu moves in the middle and then they back up yeah, did that shit. Oh man, the first time we saw that, I'm like, what's with the Soul Train Ninjas? I don't understand it. And we're looking at these dudes from Winnipeg in this hardcore band. I'm like, fuck, what's with this little chick? She's spin kicking. And I'm like, why are you spin kicking? Nobody can dance around you. I don't get this,
As we knitting a fucking quilt or milking a cow out here. Nobody's doing that.
Right? And I've heard about gigs in Montreal. People bring baseball bats in the pit and chains in the pit and start swinging them around. Well, it's just hyper aggressive, hyper masculine, hyper violent kind of parody of itself. When something becomes a parody of itself and it's no longer, I guess, no longer what it used to be. You think the evolution of the old school, early Black Flag, SOA, DC hardcore, when these guys were slam dancing and they were violent and taking out aggression on society, on each other, there was some punching and dragging and shit like that. But then it morphed into a brotherhood kind of tribal ritual dance. And then it's morphing again into this weird postmodern violent ritual of
Well, it's interesting because now that you're showing the progression, it is interesting that they keep pushing the boundaries because it started out being very fringe and nobody was doing it, and then there was a brotherhood attached to it. But then you have to make that more fine tuned. Well, we can't have just everybody be part of this. Everybody who can just punch and come in here. Okay, who's got bats? Now you're part of it. You got a chain? You're part of it.
Yeah.
So it's
you're willing to do the acceptable tribal dance.
Right. And then it changes what that is, and then a new thing comes out of it, and
it's weird because there's this generational shift, and my buddy Damien and I, we were old punk rockers from when like he had mohawks. He had a foot-long mohawk. He used to have to be able to sit in a hatchback sideways so his hair didn't get fucked
And you're
up.
talking like demon?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh my
And
God.
can you imagine?
So what, he's like 7.5 feet tall then, hey? Like,
He's a monster of a man, and then he had a
Yeah.
foot-long mohawk. So we grew up slam dancing. That's what we called it. And then as like the more metalcore bands kind of came into it, we were moshing, but it was a bro mosh, right? And then slam dancing, or then it's changed. So we go to see these hardcore bands, and there's all these like tight pant guys doing spin kicks and like kung fu moves, and we're just there to mosh. So we start jumping up and down and slamming into people. And I remember I was tattooing this one kid like weeks after a Terror show, and he's like, "Man, I love that Terror band. You know, they're super good, but these two big goons kept coming in and smashing into us and being all violent." And I'm like, "That's me and my friend. That was us, literally." You know, I remember all you spin kickers, and we were just like, "Rah!" barreling through them. But like, that's a generational gap, you know, where the old guys don't understand the youth culture, and they're still trying to do that old stuff and bringing it into what's happening now, right? Compare old hip hop groups to the mumble rap that's going on.
fuck. Yeah, that's a pretty stark change.
Yeah, for sure.
Interesting. Yeah. Well, I guess it's a similar time frame too, right? Mm-hmm. Started about the same time doing similar kind of shit, and you fast forward 30 years, and it's like, well, this is what we're doing now.
Yeah.
And we're too fucking old.
Well, I my front desk girl, she's 25 years old. She plays in like some grind, or she was when she worked with us. She played in like some grindcore bands and some punk bands, and then also acoustic acts. But she had a very good point. She's like, there's a generational gap that happens with every generation where they think the next kids coming up don't get it. Whether it's music or fashion or, you know, haircuts or any of that stuff, you fucking kids just don't get it because we weren't there when it was pure. And in 15, 20 years, you know, my daughter's generation is going to be like, you don't get intersectional politics and lesbian culture because you weren't there when it was cutting edge, you know? And like, you take all of this for granted. And that's all I think of when I see the young people do this shit. I'm like, you take so much of this for granted, right? Yeah. I was into punk when it was still called Hey Faggot, you know?
I thought that was my name for most of my teen years.
Right?
If I heard it from a passing car, is that me? You looking for me?
Fuck. You hang out with at least 3 other skaters in case a pickup truck or a fucking Camaro full of assholes with golf clubs show up, and you know it's like, okay, leave us the fuck alone, right? We don't want to get into this because that was it.
Transport and defense.
Well, yeah, one skater, one punk rocker alone in a neighborhood, like that pickup truck pulls by, goes gets a few of his buddies. Let's go harass this kid, right? So yeah, it's not like I've never suffered unneeded, you know, what's it called, stigmatization or victimization. It wasn't because of my color on my skin. It was because of personal choices. But still, I mean, I can relate. Getting punched in the head and stuck into lockers and all that stuff in school.
I think just being poor in general a lot of times gives you a lot of similar. Doesn't matter what shade you are. You know, like if you're just poor enough, you've all got similar fucking experience.
Yeah. The
Somebody gave you
proletariat.
shit for your color of your skin, or the fucking color of your t-shirt, or the brand of your shoes, or what your fucking dad does for a living, or whatever.
So let's say we create a utopian society where all of these arbitrary differences are gone and we're all one people. Do you think that there still won't be like geographical fucking rivalries between this school and that school, or this side of town and that side of town? Because it's always going to be there. Yeah. You can look at the UK. They'll fucking, for years, they had football firms that they would go and just fight each other because they were fans of a different team.
Yeah.
That's the only justification they needed to smash the shit out of each other, is that, oh, I like, you know, Manchester United and you like Chelsea, and like, fuck you, let's meet in the subway and hammer the hell out of each other.
Pick a football team.
Right? Any of them.
Wear the wrong color in the fucking parking lot. Well, and that's, see, to me now, that almost seems like that's not necessarily just inherent in us. That's something that I feel has been nurtured in us, because the reason we competed in fucking medieval times was resources. You know what I mean? It was food, it was land, it was women. Fucking whatever resources you could fucking muster.
Women are resources. They are.
Jesus Christ. And we're done.
Yeah, where it's all about
Fully
property.
Canceled. Well Fully canceled.
Can't cancel this. Anyways,
no one's watching anyways. What do you give a fuck?
Cancel me from my basement?
Yeah, exactly. They're like, yep. Oh, fuck. Okay, they got that kind of power. They. But no, like it used to be about, you know, actual fucking consumables and shit, right?
Yeah.
And then now, I mean, there's still a very broad gap in society between people having enough and people having too much. But the fucking, it's closer, and it's kind of controlled to make us still fight amongst ourselves. You know what I mean? Because it's not like we interpersonally from one country to the next necessarily have to fight over resources. We can negotiate. We've got governments. We know how to do that shit, right? But it's more profitable for those in charge to keep us fighting amongst ourselves, because if you're fighting over which soccer team that you like on the weekends, guess what you're not doing? paying attention to the news, looking to see how your fucking taxes are doing, looking to see all these other things that actually do affect your life that are controlled by these guys, and at the same time they're going, well, can we put these soccer teams a little bit closer together so they fight more frequently?
Yeah, that's a good point, right?
Yeah, man.
You look at this as a macro level, it's nations versus nations, but on a micro level, you could look at like kids in two different neighborhoods where the block over there, they spray paint on my fence, and I'm like, wait, this is our neighborhood. We're keeping it safe from you creeps, and we're gonna jump you if we see you, and then you jumped my cousin, and now I'm after you, and so I'm gonna jump your cousin, and that's how gang beefs start, and then it just gang culture.
Yep.
But then that also supports a certain kind of model of keeping people in their place.
Yep,
And,
absolutely.
Yeah.
More people in gangs, the more you got to pull from when you need to fucking fill the slave cages because you gotta. We can't get our slave wares made in Indonesia anymore because everybody's getting angry. So we're just gonna have prisoners do it instead and pay them slave wages.
See, and that also that also a bit more than that would be the micro, but you want to make it one step to the macro. We have the right and left dichotomy where the right are like, oh yeah, you people are doing this, and the left are like, you people are doing this, as opposed to everybody's they're screaming sideways and they're not pointing up. Like, who's really pulling the strings here? And the left
It's
loves
not anybody in your tax bracket.
No, it's not. Well, fucking
It
or
is
in your city,
not.
probably.
No, fucking
like,
rights, man. Especially this one, because we've had a real issue with like major CEOs for major corporations in Saskatchewan having their fucking headquarters in Chicago or fucking Calgary or some other fucking place that ain't Saskatchewan when they're making their fucking millions a year off the backs of people here and then acting like they're doing them a favor by giving them a good paying job when it's like you don't do fuck all but siphon money out of the province, and for some reason you get way more of it than anybody else who's actually doing the work with our resources.
And then siphoning your taxable income out of the country through loopholes and shell companies and trusts.
Yep.
You can use offshore banking so you don't have to pay your fair share of taxes from the country you're exploiting and the workers you're exploiting, but you're keeping people on your side because you give them a slightly better wage than the average. And I see that in mining,
and it doesn't
I see it in
necessarily
the oil
even
sector,
really
energy sector,
increase
across
their
the board.
standard of living. Their stress levels are still fucking high. They're still constantly worried about losing the house and the boat and whatever else that goes along with it. And it's, again, like the oil, for example, that's a very volatile fucking sector. There's been, even since everybody I know has been working out there since the fucking 70s from like around my hometown, everybody's gone out west and worked in the oil patch.
Yeah, most of my buddies are oil patch.
A lot of
or
those
miners.
dudes are months of the year sitting at fucking home collecting unemployment, not knowing when they're going to go back, going back for a week and then finding out they got to stay for 3 or going for 3 and finding out they're only staying a week. And it's all this fucking up and down. And then at the same time, the first time you get into that and they're like, well, you made $120,000 this year. Let's start getting you that fucking mortgage. Let's get you a new boat. Let's get you a new truck.
A boat, a truck,
And now,
Coke, booze, and
Yeah.
we never showed you how to invest because you don't know the financial
Fucking
game.
right. Yep.
We just know that like this is what I'm supposed to do. I get what's it called? Finance to the nuts. Where I'm in debt and I owe taxes and I owe interest on all of this stuff. So I'm gonna get financed truck, financed house, financed boat, financed all this stuff. Holy shit, I'm stressed though, so I'm gonna need a whole bunch of alcohol and I'm gonna need a bunch of drugs to take my mind off this and maybe I don't know 2 or 3 prostitutes in a weekend. That's $900 give or take. If they're decent ones. So
guys doing the math at home?
Oh yeah, for sure. The text in, I'll get you the numbers. Anyways, so yeah, these guys they've been given all of this money, but they don't know how to use it. They don't know how to spend it wisely. While the people that are really extracting the money, that's the game they play. That's all they know is how to place it and how to invest it and where to put it, so they don't have to pay those taxes, right?
Well, and those guys learned along the way too, but having your name on everything and showing everything else is actually a bad idea because then everybody knows how much you have.
That's ghetto fabulous.
They love hiding that shit now. They don't want you to fucking know they got billions. They might let you think they got millions. Mm-hmm.
That's a good point.
And like you were saying too, like with the mortgages and shit like that, it's come to a point now where how do you buy a fucking house without getting a mortgage?
No.
Who's got even if you can find a cheap house? Who's got $200,000? How do you just buy for one? How do you do that, right? When it used to be a thing people could fucking do, or a short-term fucking mortgage, right? Same thing with a car. How is a new truck worth $70,000 fucking dollars?
How can anybody ever afford that? It's meant
and
to
no
keep
one
you.
can. That's the thing,
It's
right?
meant to keep you in that fucking payment,
Exactly.
that financing, paying interest.
You can afford to get the luxury of getting a payment on this. This is still going to be $8 or $9 or $1,000 fucking dollars a month. You know what I mean?
For how many years, right?
Yeah, it's fucking nuts.
So as a small business owner, there was a period of time I figured the wise investment would be getting real estate so I could operate my tattoo shop out of my own building. I figure I still do, but it's an unavailable thing. So I found this building, and it was kind of in the hood right before it was gentrified, and they wanted $300,000 for this building, and it was dual zoned. Like downstairs was like a commercial, and upstairs was an unfinished apartment, so you could have residential or commercial in one. It's very rare, right? Mm-hmm. And it had like a fenced yard and a usable basement space, and they only wanted $300,000. I'm like, holy shit! If I get in here, my business can pay this mortgage in a second. You know, they would just go, and I would have property. I would have commercial property. So I go to a mortgage broker. I say, how much do I need to get into this? They're like, oh yeah, you're going to need 30% down payment. 30% down payment on a $300,000 building. Oh, I'll just pull out my $100,000 cash I have laying around. And she's like, well, a lot of people look for investors then. And I'm like, I want it to be my business. You know, I've got a down payment, a reasonable down payment. I've got proof that I'm self-employed, that I have a business. I already have a house that I've never missed a mortgage payment on. Why can't I just get in on this and just move my business in here? No, you need 30% down because it's a commercial. Who is that system set up to benefit? People that have $30,000 or $100,000 that they can move around. Who fucking has that? As a small business owner, or actually even before that, as a street kid learning a trade, starting a business, small business owner, how the fuck am I ever supposed to get out of my economic bracket to actually get into the situation where I can actually own property?
You're not supposed to.
I'm not supposed to. And it became fucking glaringly clear with that move. But where can I get $100,000 so I can buy a business of my own, or my own building to run my own business? You can't. You have to ask somebody for a loan, which is going to be attached to interest, which is going to be, it's this banking system, and everybody's fucking interest based. They want to go to a cashless society. This is another one. Okay, so you're always paying not only taxes on everything you buy and sell, but you're now also going to be paying interest on everything that you purchase with these cards. You know, you can't be spending, oh, here's $150 on cash. No, you have to put that on your Visa. And if you don't pay your Visa off real fucking quick, that's going to be, $170 in a month, and $90 in another month, just on that one fucking purchase. Where is this? I think the move towards a non-banking system is the next one. Or somehow taking a step out of this fucking economic chokehold that this system has us on. It's colonialism. I consider it all fucking colonial structures, right? So,
well, and what's crazy is if you change the structure systems, almost everybody's day-to-day stays basically the fucking same. You still keep doing the same kind of shit you are, but it relieves a lot of the stress and strain and worry of having to jump through these hoops when the shit's all maintained. Because I think any version of a fucking utopian future does not have banks. Nobody's worried about money. In my version of the future, nobody's worried about money. There's some sort of system of checks and balances, and you get credits into the system for doing whatever the fuck you do, but it's just an adaptation of what we're doing and finding a way to make it so it's not so easy for assholes to hoard because based on their bloodline, for fucking one. And other assholes can't manipulate those who don't have as much funds by doing shit like payday loans.
I'm pretty sure that this is like the idea behind blockchain banking and Bitcoin and digital currencies, where it's like a collective, everybody decides to use this currency. There's no interests on it. If you have it, you have it. If you don't, you don't. But no banks get to say what it's worth. Once upon a time, the money in your hand was supposed to represent gold that the banks held.
Exactly.
And then all of a sudden they didn't have the gold anymore, and they were printing money out of fucking thin air. So they created this invisible currency that supposedly meant something. Then they even transferred away from the paper fucking currency, and they're just creating zeros. Where the fuck are the zeros coming? Where are the digits coming? They're all on a fucking computer, invented. Oh, you owe me, you owe me, you owe me, you owe me. But in the meantime, there's tangible reality that we're sitting on that says, I'm getting zeros dumped on top of my head from these fucking bullshit institutions. Where the hell? All I want is to fit into this system and to have a little bit of property. That's it. Because the system says property is real. So if I want to be real, I need to have property. But in order to have property, you need to play the fucking economic game. But I've never been taught how to play the economic game. Because that game is the world of a very select few. And those that are good at that game win that game. It's fucking Monopoly.
Yeah. Well, and even a lot of times when they're playing that game, they find themselves getting into positions that they're not necessarily comfortable with morally, but they'll still continue to do it because that's how you get ahead.
Yeah.
Like a guy I was talking to recently about having rental properties, and he's like, well, some people would kind of consider me a slumlord because he was charging it like per room in a house, and it was hundreds of dollars. And I remember thinking like,
but that's how you can pay your mortgage.
But his was an extreme version of it. Okay. It was like, I'll just give you an example, like $600 a room, and there's fucking 6 rooms in that house.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And to me, I'm like, yeah, that kind of is what a slumlord does. You know what I mean? But that's also how you get ahead in the system. That's not against the rules. It's just, You could do it for cheaper and let people have a better lifestyle, but you're going to make more doing it this way, so you don't.
Yeah, you're rewarded by doing the unethical thing in a system like this.
Yes.
And that's kind of it. You don't have to fuck people over to survive, but it helps.
Yeah.
And there's a difference between getting by and getting ahead. If you want to get ahead, there's a study that found that the psychological profile of sociopaths and serial killers match those of the CEOs in multinational corporations, because you needed the empathy, or you needed to not have the empathy to fuck people over to get ahead. And so if you've got the sociopathic personality of it, like a narcissist, a malignant narcissist, you have no problem saying, hey, sorry, Joe, we were buddies last week, but I'm taking your fucking promotion because I did the right thing, you know, and I weaseled up, and I need that extra money for me.
Yeah.
Because I'm putting me first. Now, if...
Well, even guys making the decision to lay off workers so they get a bonus. You know what I mean? Like, so you can have bonus money. These guys get no money.
Yeah.
When they were doing the work that made it so you could get the bonus money.
Yeah, their families are going to go without Christmas, so you get more.
Yep.
And that's...
And again, to hide offshore or fucking in some sort of tax haven. Not
or
to
yeah,
actually do
exactly.
anything with it.
This entire business operation, we're shutting that down. Fuck all those people, because this over here we want to insulate a little bit more. And it's that shell game. You know what I mean? Where's it hidden under? Where's it hidden under? Oh, that one. Sorry, that one failed there. You know.
Well, and it's funny too that like that's the argument made. We're going to create these jobs so you guys all have work and look at all the good I'm doing. But as soon as it's not profitable, but I don't earn as much, I'm going to fuck about that.
So the model that I first learned about this idea is with Walmart, right? There was this documentary when Walmart really started getting big. And Walmart's business model was they would move into a small community. Let's say, 50,000 people, like tiny communities that have been established for a while. They've got their grocery store, their hardware store, they've got their clothing stores on Main Street, right? But all of a sudden, Monstro Shop comes into town. They've got this huge fucking warehouse, and it's cheaper than everywhere in town. So everybody stops going to Main Street, and they go to fucking Walmart, and they get all of their stuff cheaper than anywhere else in town, because they need to get it cheaper, because it makes their life easier to live, because it's all financially based. So they go to the cheapest place, but they're making Walmart super rich. But at any given time, if the Walmart CEO is say, guess what, this little branch here that's been operating, let's say 3 years, it's not making enough money as what we want, we're shutting that one down. They'll just fucking yank it out of that neighborhood. All the mom and pop grocery stores, hardware stores and clothing stores went out of business because they couldn't fucking keep up with everybody going to Walmart. So they destroy that economy. They put all the people that are working there out of jobs, and then they fuck off. And they don't give a shit that they basically destroyed this small community. Or maybe it's smaller than 50,000, but you know what I'm saying, you know. And that is the mentality of these huge corporations that don't give a shit about the people on the ground. And the banking industry too. You know what I mean? Sure, here's your free money. Take your free money. Take your free money. Just sign them in blood and on the dotted line.
And get you for the rest of your life now.
Sooner or later, you're like, holy fuck, hey, bank guy. I'm in this situation. Something happened and I just can't make these payments. What can we do to work this out? Oh, shitty, you're on the hook. You're on the fucking hook. Well, can't we figure something out? Like, can't we come up with an arrangement? No, you're going to fucking owe that. Otherwise, we're going to destroy your credit score, and we're going to make sure that you can't get a car loan, or you you get other things taken away from you. You can't get a mortgage now, right? Whatever it is. Or here's an example. I've got a mortgage, right? Let's say 1 year, I had a rough year. COVID happened, and I don't make enough money. So at the end of the fucking year, my checks and balances, the mortgage comes around, they say, we're checking on you. You didn't make enough to pay your mortgage officially, right? You were late. We're going to yank your mortgage. We're going to foreclose on our loan to your house. You're out on the street. Where the fuck do you go? That's all it takes between a working class dude and being homeless, is a few months of not fucking paying your bills. Yeah. Now, you think these billionaires ever worry about that shit? No, they don't fucking give a shit.
They'll take a year off to find themselves.
Yeah, all right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
right?
you going to worry about it? No, I'm going to worry about me for a year.
Yeah, and it's tough because I come from a background where a lot of my friends were criminals. Well, fucking rights are going to be criminals because you've made a system where you have to be a criminal to get ahead. Why is it on this echelon if you're a criminal to get ahead? You get prizes and you're a standing member of community. When you do the same thing, but you're in the hood, oh, you're a fucking lowlife. You know what I mean? And the jail sentences reflect that. Mm-hmm. This kid down here is getting 4 years for the thing up here. This guy's getting a slap on the wrist, or not even up here.
Both selling pharmaceuticals. Just one's a CEO and one's a fucking street level pusher.
Exactly, and one's selling it to the kids in the neighborhood that are self-medicating, and this one's selling it to the rich fucks in the suburbs that are self-medicating, right? Like, why is Percocet down here bad? Percocet up here is great, Hypocrites. Yeah. Anyways.
Well, and it feeds the system. It feeds them for what they need. And you can't have a bunch of intelligent, wealthy people all pulled into that system because they start fighting back and they have the means to, and then you have to fix the system. So it's like they can't even pursue people of wealth for the things they pursue little, like, fucking street level people for, because those ones can't fight back. They're going to keep taking it. Yes, a bunch that can fight back. I mean, they're going to buy their way out for a while, but eventually they go, you know what, I'm tired of fucking doing this. This is bullshit. You shouldn't have anybody in jail for this, which is kind of what's happening down in some spots, because there's people that were, like, more high profile that have gone to jail for shit, that have seen other people in jail and been like, oh, fuck, this is what I've been doing to people. I was a lawmaker, and these guys are in here for longer than me, and I did way worse than they did. Doesn't make any fucking sense. So it's good when people do get caught up in that, I guess, but that's why the system has to watch to not have that happen, because then it starts to get fucking dismantled.
They just released a judge due to the COVID inside the prison that he was being kept in, and this was the Kids for Pay judge, where he would get kickbacks from these privatized prisons for every kid he sent to their prison, regardless of whether they were guilty or not. This guy was literally getting money for sending kids who otherwise were innocent to prison, and every kid that he sent to this fucking prison, he got money, so he got put away for a while.
Oh, sorry, and he would I'm sure, make it logical in his head by going, well, they're not innocent. I mean, they did something. There's a reason they're here.
Yeah, if they
this
now,
wasn't the thing, so I mean, I might as well.
It's a tough situation, man. Like, there's a lot of fucking corruption going on, and the average
Well, it has been for fucking a long goddamn time. To just, again, finding some light on the situations we're seeing shit like this.
Well, yeah, I think actually it's funny, since you said it the other week, sunlight disinfects. I've been seeing that more and more and more, and I'm so up in the air about it. You know what I mean? Because I think that movement of disinfecting is also sweeping up otherwise innocent people. You know what I mean?
And again, I couldn't agree with you more what you were saying previously about that, like the cancel culture and about like how unfounded, ungrounded bullshit
happens.
Exactly.
Happens. It's not always happening.
It's terrible. It's terrible, and it shouldn't. People should not do that. People shouldn't just fucking take it in their own hands to vigilante somebody. But then again, on the other side, when you have people that were actually wronged and they're like, well, now's the time I can talk. You gotta weed through that shit.
It's a very complicated
right? You gotta kind of
situation.
take it all and then weigh it all, and then and again, if people come in with the right intention, then you're not gonna have as much of that. But if people want to manipulate the situation to push whatever their fucking agenda is, well,
in the
have to.
In the tattoo community right now, there's a few social media pages that are popping up that are victims' voices pages, and what it is because tattooing was an underground culture for a very long time, and there was a lot of shady fucking things that went on underground, like irresponsible behavior, both like physically, violence, sexually, drug addiction, alcoholism, like shady business practices, people ripping each other off. Like, that was tattooing. There was a bunch of fucking pirates. Like, just imagine if all of a sudden pirate culture became popular culture, and then suddenly people are like, these pirates did things we didn't like,
Yeah.
Well, that's gonna happen when you deal with pirates. They rape, they pillage, they fucking roll into your town and just
plunder.
Yeah, that's what plundering is. It's sort of like saying the toxic nature of the Viking culture. Well, yeah, they were very fucking toxic.
Yeah.
Our entire culture is based on finding new cultures, robbing, raping, and enslaving them, and then taking them back. And that's our cultural tradition. Yeah, it's toxic. It's toxic. So tattoo culture, this victims' voices thing has come out, and largely it's on sexual inappropriate behavior. And fuck, reading these, I wanted to fucking puke for some of these accounts. So what it is, unfortunately, is an anonymous account can be sent into an anonymously run profile, and they just put it out there with the guy's name. So they out the guy.
So the only thing not anonymous is
the guy being doxxed. Joe Blow working here. This is the accusation. No comments allowed. Right? And some of them are pretty brutal. But this one kid, he got outed, and I knew him, actually. He's from another town. I don't want to give too much information. But his name kept coming up. And my impression as reading these is he wasn't a violent guy. He was slutty. And he ghosted a lot of girls. And he was just manipulative to get laid, like a lot of toxic guys were. When he got outed as being a predator, he tried killing himself. And he's in the hospital right now in recovery, and I reached out to him. I'm like, dude, yeah, mistakes get made. Don't get me wrong. I've been there. I've done that. If you need help in your recovery, reach out to me. But yeah, I'm sorry that it had to get to this point. And it really made me wonder. I'm like, okay, so with this call-out culture, other than raising awareness, and all of us need to do that work and say, hey, I did toxic shit. I'm never going to do that again. Thanks for letting me know what toxicity is. Are they going to be happy now? Is that the goal with like doxing this guy to this point? He's no longer in the trade. He tried killing himself. Has he paid his amends? Has he said sorry enough? What should he cut off a fingertip? You know, what's he going to need to do to prove to these people that he's actually remorseful for his stuff? How much of the coals does he need to be dragged across in order for them to feel that he's paid enough? You know what I mean? And that's that punitive aspect as opposed to educational aspect. I think that the doxing culture and all of this stuff, this call-out culture, is very important in an educational aspect, where even if it's run by fear, like, holy fuck, I don't want that to happen to me, but just to say, this is toxic. You can't be doing this. Hitting on girls that are, you know, barely legal to get tattooed and using a position of power of tattooing them to try and get their phone number and while they're under the needle, that's not good things. Don't do that. Yeah. That's cool. That's educational. But this fucking dude tried killing himself because he felt so bad about it. He's never going to tattoo again. He's trying to look for another career choice. He's getting counseling. He's in therapy. But fuck, he tried killing himself. So, yes. But at the same time, how many victims of abuse have tried to kill themselves? And that's the other side of this.
Tough balance, man.
Well, and
and again, I feel like even the scenario you're talking about, how is there accountability from anybody though if there's only one person named in this? You know, like, I mean, that's why I don't get it. It's like if it is something that needs to be talked about and needs to be out in the open and needs to be in the public and people do need to do about it, then why do it on an anonymous site, anonymously, where there's no repercussions that can come back onto you? And I mean, maybe that's the reason, or maybe it's fear, but I mean, there's also police services. You know what I mean? Like, if this is that fucking heavy, you know what I mean? And I'm not saying that they're going to do, I'm not going to say they're going to do anything either, because I don't think that many victims of assault are actually followed up on. Which
that's the other side of this.
I know, right? That's what I'm saying. Like, it's so hard to know what to do, because you try and do the right thing, and then you get there, and then no one hears you. No one listens to you. You really do have a legitimate concern, or maybe you just don't like the fucking guy and you just want to get a shot in at him, and you go, well, I know this about him. Well, I know that about him. Well, then you pile up a fucking page worth of anonymous accounts of this, and all of a sudden he looks like a fucking predator of some sort.
Great similar thing. There was a presenter from New York City. I won't say his name. He was a BDSM presenter, right? And he's a dominant male, heterosexual guy. And he broke up with a partner, right? And the partner went back to, like, I think 4 or 5 of his other partners previously. And together they were able to, and this is like 9 years, they were able to collaborate on an 8-paragraph outing of all the bad things that this guy has done that makes him a bad dominant, and he shouldn't be a presenter, and he's a consent violator. So these 4 or 5 or however many exes put together an 8-paragraph essay on why this guy is such a piece of shit and shouldn't be in the BDSM community because he's so dangerous. Well, man, that's over 9 years of his life. You were able to compile 8 paragraphs over 9 years of relationships? No shit. I don't know a single fucking individual on either side, left, right, top, bottom, victim, whatever, predator, that doesn't have skeletons in their closet that they can't be dragged out, you know? And that's a real heavy one. So,
well, and it's funny too, because we're supposed to grow and learn from all those experiences. You know, that's what everybody says. You know, when you have these shitty times, grow and learn from it. But then you're like, okay, I'm going to try and grow and learn, and then like, nah, it's punishment instead.
Yeah, you got to get the fuck out of here. Nobody wants to engage with you ever again. You got to quit your trade. You got to, you know, lose your job or whatever, right? And it's a tough one, and we're living in real tough times, because I do think people have to address their own toxicity, and they need to try to be better individuals, but they also need to be given the opportunity to do that and the education and skills to be able to do that. Case in point, I had a little conversation about these kids in town a couple weeks ago. Machete attack down by the river, right? Smash another guy in the head with a machete. Now, these kids are obviously traumatized little assholes that get involved with gang culture and robberies and violence and assaults, right? So they've been traumatized to the point where they're doing this toxic fucking shit, and they don't probably even realize that they're in pain. And this violence and this stuff is a manifestation of their pain. So if they could actually heal that pain, they probably wouldn't be doing this toxic shit. But how can we get to that point of educating them and giving them knowledge if we're too busy punishing them? Now, the other side is they're doing really toxic shit. Yeah. So they need to be accountable for their fucking behavior despite whatever trauma. They need to say, holy fuck, I'm doing the wrong thing. Why did I do the wrong thing? Oh, because of my pain? Let's heal my pain so I don't do the wrong thing anymore. But we're just we're wiping it all away. So the left, I see, they're saying, these people are just victims. They can't be held accountable for attacking other people with machetes. And the right are, these kids are fucking monsters. They're attacking people with machetes. So where's the middle ground? Where, you know...
Well, and I think it's adjustable too, because like the person who's committing these crimes, for example, once they're aware that they're doing it because of trauma, or they're doing it because of anger, or whatever the fuck the reasons are they're doing it, well, then that does become their responsibility, because now you're aware. You know, if you're unaware, well, fuck, how are you supposed to fix that, right? But now once you are, then it's on you. And to me, then that's the sliding scale of this is like, well, you need punishment this far till you fucking know what you're doing. Now you're doing it this. Okay, well, we're going to take it this fucking far now that you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Because there are still some people that are psychopaths or sociopaths
that will never feel remorse for anything they do.
And it could be something was like physically, mechanically broken inside of them years ago or emotionally and may never be fixed, even through years and years and years of fucking therapy. But that is such a small percentage of people. I think majority-wise, you start addressing people's core issues, they get better. They don't get to be the best necessarily. They don't necessarily do what everyone else would do right, but they get better.
Baby steps are still steps, man.
Fucking right.
Yeah, and I think that's a huge
Well, and we're not all coming from the same place, too. I mean, in my head, as soon as you were telling that story, I was like, well, I feel like I was toxic. I never attacked anybody with a fucking machete.
Yeah, their traumas are different than your traumas. My traumas are different
we're
than your
not
traumas.
coming from the same spot.
Yeah, and I think that's a well, fuck.
And I don't know how you could be that you could even get there because I can't even picture starting on that road where I'm just going to hang out with my buddies and machete somebody.
Well, you know what?
Nothing.
Imagine living in an environment where you have to start carrying a knife so those 3 guys down the hall in your apartment block don't come and jack you and your family. Yeah. And you're like, stay the fuck away from me. Well, there, I've got that buffer, you know, I'm safe because I have a blade on me now. So then all of a sudden you realize that I'm actually a little stronger because I've got a blade on me. How much different will it be if I put a pistol on me? People really don't fuck with me if they know I carry a pistol. Sooner or later, well, I can do whatever I want because I have this pistol and they don't have the pistol. I'm on the top of this heap now. And so there's that transition between that self-protective stuff that comes with like being traumatized.
From victimization,
to becoming the bully or the person that's doing the trauma. And I think that when we go back through that and you unpack that, you can maybe heal a little bit of it. Like, so when did you start carrying a knife? Mr. Machete in the head? Yeah. You know, what made you think that? And you know what? I guarantee you, well, I won't guarantee you, but in this scenario specifically, it happened a couple weeks down by our tattoo shop. We're talking about a racial segregation attack. So these were indigenous kids attacking a Caucasian kid or a Caucasian man down by the river. You know what I mean? And I imagine that is an expression of rage comes from that idea, the principle that you now represent the system that made me feel like shit my whole life, and this is my opportunity to make you feel like I felt. And it's not rational. I don't think I agree with it, but that's also the looting of the shops. You know what I mean? It's the same fucking deal, and maybe that's part of that inevitable ugliness that's going to go with this transitional period.
But again, it sucks and it's uncomfortable. But I think if this is a transition, then that's good, right? There's good that can come out of this. You're still gonna have to go through it. Who knows how Buddy's gonna fucking recover from a machete fucking wound? And it sucks that he had to be the catalyst, but maybe that's what changes it. And that's probably an overly soft way of looking at it too, because many people will be like, well, yeah, but fuck that. Why do I have to be part of this? But I mean, that's fucking, I don't know, man. That's the cosmic scheme. That's how this whole thing fucking works. It's not always punishment. You know, like that's, again, how I feel about my depression now. I'm trying to get to a point where I'm like, I'm not being punished for this. I'm being told to do work on myself right now that if I don't do, this is going to continue to happen.
Well, I choose to take those opportunities to do analyzation on why I'm feeling a certain way, you know?
Well, and a lot of times for myself, I find I get there because I haven't been doing that. You know, again, I missed last week here. And just letting shit pile up and not really talking about it out loud, because that's a big thing for me. I can do lots of internal work, but until I say it out loud, it's not really fucking real to me. Yeah. You know what I mean?
You make it real.
Well, yeah. and that's how I've gotten things done in my life. You know, like we were having a conversation not long ago about a mutual friend, and we're kind of like, you know, like, fuck, he sure says he's going to do lots of stuff, but I never see him do it, you know? And then other buddy was like, I remember you when you said you were going to fucking get into MMA, and then like 3 weeks later I seen you and you had shorts and you were running to work every day and talking about how tough running was. And he's like, I couldn't believe you were just doing it. And I'm like, well, that's why I say stuff out loud. Because I want someone to hold me accountable. Like, didn't you say you were going to fucking do this? And I'm like, yeah, I did, didn't I? God damn it.
Walking our dogs. We should do a podcast. Yeah, we should do a podcast. One of these days we'll do that. And I'm sitting there thinking, fuck, I said it out loud. We're going to have to fucking do this now, you know? Yeah. It's not... I can say it out loud, but like as soon as they put it in you and you're like, yeah. I'm like, I guess we just made an agreement, didn't we?
Yeah, all right. That's how shit gets done. That's the only way I can do. That's the only way I can do. I can think about stuff as much as I want, but if I don't say it out loud or do something physical in the world that actually facilitates that, which is almost nothing I do, usually is just saying it out loud, so I change my mood or my mindset and then go and do what the fuck it is. Yeah, but I like that though, as I'm realizing it more.
It's going fast. Yeah, so this is this whole like. the trauma and the machete attack, it's put a lot of stuff into context for me where it's like everybody's pissed off, everybody wants to talk about this shit, and everybody's seeking healing. Maybe the fact that it's on the table and it's being discussed means that it's going to go in the right direction. You know what I mean? People are talking about racial tension and all of this stuff, and people are talking about police brutality and the nature of policing, and it's being put out there. People are talking about the division between the worker and the bosses, and the tenants and the landlords, and the relationship between that. You can't really put it on the table without doing something about it.
Right. Now that you know it exists. Exactly. You know what the problem is, and you continue to let it fester, well, that's fucking on you. You're going to lose your foot.
Well, working in the bars, every time I'd see these guys at last call, or not working or hanging out or being around it, last call that want to hammer the shit out of each other, and I'm just looking at them, I'm like, dude, you know, your trauma, it's like, sorry your dad hammered any emotion out of you, and it can only really come when you've got like 6-8 beers deep and you want to hammer the shit out of somebody else.
How many of those guys, when they don't get to do the thing, break down in tears afterwards too? Well, I just wanted to bang, bro! And tears running down their face outside the bar, and you're like, this isn't what it's about. It's not a spilt beer that made you fucking act like this. It isn't him bumping into you that made you act like this.
That perceived disrespect that suddenly needs to be met with like hyper aggression because you don't have those like emotional checks and balances that like sobriety gives you. Those have all been removed, and you have disrespect attack, you know what I mean? But where does that come from? Like, I'd love to be able to go to the bars where everybody's there having a celebration and a good time, and I don't see a lot of that in Saskatchewan. I go, maybe it's the geography that there's a lot of fucking, you know, I don't know, frustrated individuals. You know, I'd love to go somewhere where everybody's there having a good time and dancing and there for a good time and a celebration. But I see a lot of people unpacking traumas when they get a few drinks deep, you know.
Well, we do live in a pretty gnarly fucking province too, where like just the weather and shit puts it on people. You know, you can be having a great day and then you're fucking murdered by mosquitoes.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Or under 3 feet of snow and it's minus 20.
Or all of a sudden it's fucking 40 degrees outside and you're working outside all day and you're like, what the fuck? Like,
man, my biggest thing, I don't even mind being outside working in the heat. You know, it's not my favorite. I worry about dying because my vehicle can't handle minus 40. And being stuck in the middle of nowhere with a cold, dead husk of steel and rubber and trying to figure out how the fuck I'm going to get my vehicle back to where it's going. That's my biggest frustrating deal, is dealing with mechanical shit in minus 40 in Saskatchewan or minus 30 in Saskatchewan, when your fingers are freezing when you're just trying to open a hood, or, you know, back in the day trying to get to a payphone and put a quarter in there and you can't fucking feel the buttons that you're dialing. You know, it's scary living here when you can die being outside.
So when you get those kind of wintry nights when you get a time to just be in a warm, dark place with a bunch of booze and loud music, you're just like, well, hunker down, let's get into it. You know, like, I'm not here to celebrate, I'm here to fucking escape for a little bit.
Well, a February gig, right? You get in there with your parka and your big boots, and everybody's shit-faced, and it's sweaty, and it's warm, and there's bro down, and, you know, everybody's having a good old time with each other. Yeah, this is a safe space for me, when outside isn't a safe space, you know? And
even though this is a pretty toxic fucking environment, some shit's
can
gonna happen.
be.
I'm still not dying like I would be if I was outside.
Yeah, right?
If I do die, it's of my own free will.
Yeah, just getting in with a black eye. I'm leaving with a black eye. I'm not leaving with hypothermia and frostbite.
I've got black fingers and toes.
Right? I used to have. And now I got stumps. So, yeah. Well, okay. So I've a couple little things marked down. The COVID masker protests. We just had one in Saskatoon where I think, you know, maybe 7 people showed up to protest being forced to wear masks.
Right.
Yeah.
Have you been forced yet?
Well, no. Somebody gave me grief getting gas today.
Sure.
Yeah.
No one forced you.
Well, see, and that's just it. I'm from Saskatchewan. We're pretty low rates. I follow the rates pretty well. Like, you know, even up in north, this is like the first day there's 0 cases, you know, I think 0 active cases. So we're in the middle of fucking nowhere. So if I go into the gas station and I'm like, here's my $60, that pump, and I'm walking out, she's like, you could have social distanced. I'm like, yep, I'm walking out. I'm not going to really put the mask on and the hazmat suit, you know. Yeah. But at the same time, if I'm going to be in a heavily populated environment, you know, I want to take precautions as the best practices.
I think I'm just trying to do what everybody else is doing. Basically, if I'm in a place and everybody's wearing a fucking mask, I'm gonna put one on.
Yeah.
If I'm in a place and no one's wearing it, I'm going to still be as cautious as I can, but I'm going to be like, well, this is what people are doing here.
Well, if you're consenting to an orgy and you're all naked, then I guess you all consent to whatever fucking happens, right?
Exactly.
Can you
Well, depends
imagine
what your scenario is.
an orgy baby or a gangbang baby? It's like, who's the daddy? You know, are we following through on that
Can
one?
you imagine Russ is like tugging his shirt on?
Yeah.
Comfortable blame about this. Sons of bitches.
You said you wouldn't say anything.
Yeah. Told you one thing not to talk about. Orgy babies, that was it.
Yeah, orgy baby. But yeah, so I guess we all decide what level of risk we feel is comfortable as long as we're all consenting to it. And this goes...
and none of my consideration in any of this is the comfort level of the mask or that I might die from wearing one, because that's fucking insane. Anybody who's out there arguing that the CO2 from your breath is going to fucking kill you from wearing a mask,
the carbon monoxide.
you're a moron.
Yeah.
So stop doing that. If somebody asks you to fucking wear one to go in their business, just put it on. It's 5 fucking minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. Anybody who's ever worked anywhere where you've got to wear a fucking mask in the oil field and working in fucking spray paint booths or any of that kind of shit, those motherfuckers do it all the time. Those are much heavier ones. You ever met a doctor or a nurse? All the fucking time they're wearing them.
They survive, too.
15 fucking minutes out of your day, literally.
I think they survive. There's not a lot of deaths
nuts.
in
I just don't get it.
doctoring and body, you know.
Yeah. And I honestly, if somebody gets upset about me not wearing one, that's even cool to me, because I'm like, okay, I get it. You're trying to stay safe, and that's why you're upset.
Oh, yeah, I can
Someone's
see that.
upset with me for wearing one, go fuck yourself. That's like getting mad at somebody for wearing sunscreen.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
You don't want to get a burn like the rest of us? Yeah. No, I fucking don't, man. And I don't want to somehow transfer my burn to you by not wearing this fucking sunscreen.
See, that's a good point. It's like sort
That's
of
not a
like,
real thing, but...
well, you know, okay, you can look at it like, of course, I'm going to go back to the swingers clubs. There's the one guy at the swingers club that refuses to wear a condom. Yeah, dude, don't fucking do that. We're all here in the same boat trying to keep things safe just in case. We're not saying that everybody has an STI, but there might be one or two, and to stop that from fucking happening, we're all observing protective, you know, protocols. Well, I don't fucking like how they feel. Shitty for you. Don't be here. Yeah. You're protecting. That's tyranny. I should be able to fuck anybody I want without a condom. No, you're being a fucking selfish prick. Go away.
Well, and that's when it becomes health oriented, right? It's not about your personal fucking choice anymore when you're putting someone else's health at risk. Because I love shooting guns and I love shooting them into crowds. Okay, hold on. You can't do that. That's everybody else at risk.
Tyranny!
Yeah,
Tyranny!
Exactly, right?
It's tyranny! Somebody joked about when Sean Cuthand was on here at the weed store and the guy started screaming tyranny because that's not tyranny, man. I think you need to go to like a dictatorship and really feel what it's like to be under a tyrannical state. My one buddy, he moved to the Philippines a long time ago. He's a dive instructor. His town had 0 cases. Nobody in the town. They were allowed out 1 hour a day. There was military checking IDs, photographing people with fucking machine guns to make sure that they observed the 1 hour a day they were allowed outside of their quarantine. And social distancing, masks, the whole nine. You can maybe say tyranny then. You know, when there's 0 cases and there's guys with fucking guns checking your ID if you leave. Like,
that's what people don't get. They think that's what this is.
Yeah,
they think,
know.
well, what, you're calling cops on me? No, nobody's fucking doing that. They're just asking you not to come into the Whole Foods without fucking wearing one. That's it. They're not standing in the corner with machine guns, and that's what they're doing there, because those fucking guys, they're just waiting for, we can lock everybody down? Sure, sounds good. We don't have a problem with it, but we can act like we do? Excellent, let's do it. Lock
it's
them
coming
down.
from the country where the president is executing drug dealers.
Yeah, man.
You know, that's his
and probably
war
not
on
even
crime.
like through a proxy. That motherfucker's probably out there shooting.
Yeah,
people in
he's
the back
with a
street.
truck with a fucking 50 cal on the back.
Guitar
Oh, this is a drug.
Yeah.
So yeah, I watched this video and this woman's bugging out because all the staff are asking her to leave if she refuses to put a mask on. Yeah. Other patrons are asking her to leave if she doesn't want to put a mask on. They're like, you're endangering us too, you know? Yeah. And she's like, oh, fuck, you guys are Nazis. Everybody here's a fucking Nazi. And the guy's like, actually, we've got a legal right to ask you to leave our business. And once you refuse to leave, you're actually trespassing here. And we can ask you to leave for any fucking reason. This is our mandate. You can't be in this building without wearing a mask. You fucking Nazis.
Hey,
call the cops on me. Don't touch me.
And to quote them, why don't you go back to a place where you can do that?
Yeah.
Hey,
yeah,
they'd see somebody in a hijab and fucking freak out, but you got to wear a mask. Well, these are Nazis. No, you're a fucking Nazi. You have been the whole time. Now you're seeing it done back onto you, and you're like, oh, this is a big deal.
I don't think these people have ever experienced any level of oppression, and when they feel the littlest amount of oppression.
The people reacting like that have never been pulled over for no reason. Have never been stopped and frisked. They've never had any of that kind of fucking
it's
shit
the definition
happen in
of
their
white
life.
privilege.
fucking rights, man.
It is, because you don't see a ton of people that are actually used to being raked over the coals. That's my new term: raked over the coals, dragged over the coals.
That's a tough one.
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
kidding, that was the other phrase.
R-A-K, not P.
Yeah.
Raked over the coals. So.
That's a whole nother level.
Yeah, this
That's that Louisiana barbecue you're talking about there.
This sounds a little kind of crackly now and then. So there's people that have never actually had to deal with the receiving end of any oppression that are screaming oppression for the minorest inconvenience, like the tiniest thing.
Yeah.
And I think that goes back to our entire deal, where it's like, for people of privilege, equality feels like oppression.
Yep.
You know, when you're
Exactly.
asked to be respectful of others,
Yep.
quit oppressing me.
Yep.
Quit limiting my right to make other people feel like shit.
Right?
It's like, oh my God, can you
quit limiting my right to spread this plague?
You think we could be married? Fuck you! You know?
Yeah.
You think I could have a vote? Fuck you!
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
you're oppressing me, my rights!
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
no.
fucking rights.
It's a tough one. We're living in some weird fucking times.
The weirdest, man.
Yeah.
Oh,
I listened to this Terrence McKenna.
right on.
Oh yeah, I've been right into him.
fucking
That's my cardio music at the gym. I just put on Terrence McKenna lectures or Alan Watts or a few other guys, and I just sit there and I walk it out. And he had pointed out that at this very moment is the furthest of progress that we've experienced, period, as a race. And
Well, that's what I said last week or 2 weeks ago when you mocked me openly.
oh, I did. Yeah.
I was like, yeah, we're the most in the future we've ever been. And
Yeah,
like,
we are.
Oh, now we are. And now we are.
Well, it's true. Well, I was just going to say, and right now,
yeah.
we are further
Yeah.
in progress than we were when I first said it.
Yeah.
Because every few seconds, there's a new invention coming up. There's a new like scientific discovery happening.
idea.
There's a new idea being put on the table. We've taken steps further as a species, as a race, as a planet, as a universe, straight up as a universe than we ever have before. If the universe is exploding from a minuscule thing and continually expanding, then at any given moment we are further out than we've ever been. You know, now there's some ideas that we're going back towards a singularity, but I think that's very important. So yeah, I'm not going to get distracted on there. But as a culture, I think that, or at least Western culture, or culture is in the world, we're the furthest that we've ever been as far as technology, about cleanliness, about like longevity and health and enlightenment. Oh yeah, unless we talk about ancient aliens, we can't figure out how to put together the fucking Peruvian stuff. But yeah, there's been some lost tech. But
Well,
you know,
yeah, that's clarify that. Yeah, as far as we know, this is the farthest along we've ever. As far as we know, these are the first times we've been able to take private fucking spaceships into space.
yeah. So it's
So yeah,
very
we should be
interesting.
doing better. That's what I'm getting.
There would be better ways.
Where's the version of 2020 that I was picturing?
Yeah, in another multiverse.
Yeah.
Another multiverse.
Well, probably.
It's possible. I wonder about that a lot. Yeah, I don't want to get too existential. What else do I got on here? Fucking the COVID maskers and the right to protest and the right to have an opinion. And I think you can have that right as long as it's not endangering other people. And this is the limitations of free speech.
And and I don't know these people, but I'm going to assume these are the same kind of motherfuckers that when people are downtown protesting about missing Indigenous women, that they're honking their horn and get the fuck off the street. We're trying to drive. I pay taxes. Well, you make me wear a mask. I'm down there to protest.
There's a certain personality.
Yep.
That and you know they generally
One that still thinks
gravitate.
you can't say Christmas. No, I can finally say Christmas again.
Yeah.
Bitch, no one stopped you from fucking saying Christmas.
Yeah, I don't know a single
Jesus
person
Christ.
that insisted that we said happy holidays.
No. I do that shit out of politeness to everybody else because I don't know what they are. As soon as somebody's like, well, actually, I celebrate Christmas, I'm like, okay, cool, then Merry Christmas, I guess.
Well, I'll say Merry Christmas. I'll say Happy Holidays. It doesn't really matter. And if it's an issue for you, mention it to me. And if you don't want to mention it to me, don't tell me like I can't say Merry Christmas. Like fuck it. you
Correct
know?
me.
I don't think you were oppressing me.
Yeah.
If you say sorry, my pronoun is this.
Yep.
Oh,
exactly.
okay. Thank you.
Then I'm an asshole if I don't adjust to it,
Yeah,
honestly,
yeah.
because that makes you uncomfortable. And the whole point of saying that shit is to make somebody else comfortable. You want to be pleasant with them and you want to greet them and make them comfortable, so you say whatever the fucking thing is. Nobody's coming out, well, no, some dickheads are coming and going, yeah, well, you know what?
You have to do
Merry
this.
Christmas. And you're like, what are you, fucking 5?
Mm-hmm. Well, and then there are also those people that are out there saying Merry Christmas is oppressive to me.
Yeah.
And that doesn't necessarily fucking make it so.
Yeah, no.
You're being a little
What's
bit of
the
a nutbag
intention
on
here?
that end
Yeah,
there.
and
you know?
again, I don't even really celebrate fucking Christmas, but I still, it's the season when everybody else is. You know what I mean? I'm like, again, I'm just
Winter
trying to fucking,
solstice.
with this shit that I don't give a fuck about, I'm just trying to do what everybody else is doing. You know what I mean?
Oncoming is the birth of the new year, where the days grow shorter. You're like, wait, you got to turn it into like some big pagan thing? No, it's fucking Merry Christmas. There you go.
Yeah.
We've been doing it forever. I grew up with it, you know. And there's the other element that this is our fucking culture. Now, if I had, let's say, I don't know, go to Saudi Arabia
There you
and
go.
they're like,
What's everybody
Ramadan,
doing?
right? You know, and I'd be like, oh, okay, you know, I don't know how to say it, but like, happy Ramadan, you know, are we fasting?
Do you
'Cause
go
that's
into
what
a
we do.
Buddhist temple and, hey, everybody, you're getting the Merry Christmas in here? or-
Excuse me, it's
Yeah.
Christmas
Yeah,
to
yeah,
us.
yeah,
You know,
exactly.
you're
I can't believe you guys
oppressing
are
me.
even open. Don't you know
Exactly.
who was born today?
Yeah. This is my God, not your God. Yeah, it's kind of fucked up stuff, and I don't think there's a grand conspiracy to destroy our culture. I don't, and I think some people are convinced.
Well,
there's a
and
grand
I think
conspiracy.
it's such a fucking
Maybe revise
It's,
our
it's a
culture.
loosely based culture on a bunch of other people's fucking cultures, right? So when you start nitpicking parts of it, they're like, you're tearing everything apart. It's like, well, no, you could do like the Japanese, for example, with fucking pop culture, and take just the shit that's excellent and leave the garbage behind. You could do that if you wanted to. You could take the good parts of these things and leave
I
the rest
wish.
behind.
Well, maybe that's what some people are thinking. And you know what? Maybe we need to create an area for the atavists can go to. You want traditional family values? You want to go be like Amish? You know, go there. Go to Amish land and you live your traditional structured, you know, Handmaid's Tale, fucking whatever traditional family values in your segregated little world, and let everybody else be progressive here. You know what I mean? You want the Midwest? Fucking have it. You know, I'll go. I don't know, whatever, right?
Let's keep the coasts.
Well, there's a
Let them
part
move.
of me. There's a real part of me, and I know it's not politically correct, but I think that voluntary segregation isn't the worst fucking thing in the world. If you really don't want to live in an integrated society, and you really believe that, go off to your segregated society. You know what I mean?
Well, here's the problem with that, though, then, is it kind of stifles and stunts our growth as a fucking society, then, right? When you've got these little pockets that stayed 30, 40 years behind everybody else because they've been wanting to do this one thing that really didn't have anything to do with technology or advancement or anything else is going on, well, then they end up kind of behind, right? And
Well, what if they choose that? Like the Amish,
yeah,
specifically.
no, I get that, but it's at the same time like removing yourself from everybody else to do that instead of just doing that in amongst everybody else because no one's stopping you from living like an Amish and still being part of society.
Well,
it's your limitations you're putting on it, right?
It's a tough
It might
one
be
because there's
easier
some
to do it if
people.
you're segregated, I guess.
Well, you know what? That's just it. Like I know some people in the gay community that get frustrated when the gay bars are suddenly open to everybody and they become trendy, and then they don't have their space anymore to be as gay as they once were. You know what I mean? There's
but here's the thing,
Hebrew
though. Here's the thing,
Israelites
like,
that
are
are.
they, but just a second though, like, are they really not allowed to, or is it just because they're uncomfortable because they're around a bunch of straight people now they feel like they can't? Because the building didn't change, the rest of the tenants didn't change, right? Who's coming into this bar that you're always going to? Now there's more of the outside coming in. I think in those, and again, I don't think like fucking everybody else, but in those scenarios, I want to be as much of me as I can. Then.
Well, yeah,
you know,
if-
you came here for fucking this. Let's see this. You know,
You're
like,
in my
you're-
environment.
Exactly,
You're
you're
here
in
to
my
see-
world now.
Yeah.
You don't get to come in here and dictate how I'm going to live. But I can understand that when you're already part of a marginalized group and you've always felt like that, and then you get a safe space, and then more of these people who, even if they weren't the people, they look like the people that were marginalizing you previously. I could see you retreating from that.
So here's the scenario. Imagine somebody who's an outsider showing up to the Bastards weekend and starting to point out all the problematic elements.
They got to go.
Yeah, that they find
you
in your
to go
community.
right
I'm sorry,
now.
you guys are drinking and driving mini bikes. That's dangerous.
Yeah.
You don't have the right reflectors or the right safety thing.
Yeah.
You'd be like, sorry, this is our stuff. We are consenting. We are here. We're doing our stuff. You go over there. We choose to come to this space for our little, and nobody here is forced to be here. They can leave if they don't like it. Now,
And if you want, put all the reflective gear on your shit as you want, and
Yeah.
fucking wear 9 helmets and do you.
Yeah, or
But
don't
you
be here.
Can't come in here and tell fucking everybody else how to do it.
well, if I showed up and I'm like, you know, you guys, your drugs or your alcohol, and like, you know, it's problematic. And like, don't be here, Pat.
Yeah.
Fuck off.
Did
You know.
I
like-
mention that's why we're here?
Yeah, that's kind of it.
Trying to get problematic this weekend.
Yeah, our entire principle is problematic. So, in the same token, I believe in the validity of individuals having special spaces.
Yep.
You know what I mean? But for some reason, when certain people, let's say guys like us, say, well, where's our safe space to do our stuff? There's outsiders saying, well, that's problematic. That's problematic. You're expressing toxic masculinity by doing MMA or by smashing your mini bike into the side of a barn, or, you know.
Well, I think the difference with those is like there are places for us to do that, and they're small. They're a building. They're a field. They're a fucking whatever. It's not a whole community.
Yeah,
which kinda
traditionally there's been a culture
But,
where white
yes.
men can do whatever the fuck they want.
But we still have those spaces, and you still, to my mind, I still make in the ways I participate in those. I always try to make them as inclusive as possible, but I'm also not going to bend to someone else's will. You can come in. You're more than welcome. Don't
is
tell me what to
our
do.
thing.
Don't tell me how to do
You're
this.
a tourist here.
Exactly. And if you want to participate, we'll get your fucking shirt off and get in the pool like everybody else or whatever we're doing. But if not, cool, sit on the side and watch. But you don't get to come in and dictate. You know, just like I can't go into whatever their fucking world is and dictate what they're going to do.
Show up in Japan and like, why aren't you speaking English?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Don't
I
you
speak
get
English
it?
at home, why don't you?
Yeah, what the fuck? You're not making me feel welcome in your culture.
Yeah.
Like, so that's kind of a weird one. And
what's funny too is when you don't impose that shit on people, a lot of times they do go out of their way. When you start coming in and going, I can't believe you eat that part of the animal, shit like that. You know, like then people are like, well, I want to cut you off then because already you're doing this, and how else are you going to judge me? Whereas if you don't do that shit, people welcome you the fuck in. Like my little brother, he'd been to a few sweat lodge ceremonies, and like legitimately the only white dude there is his wife was Native, and so she was already in and there, and he had to like really, you know, kiss some ass and stuff and really put some time in before they'd let him come in. He had to come and help and do all this fucking shit. And then once he kind of showed that the reasons he was there were valid and wasn't there to be a fucking tourist, wasn't there to come in and add judgment, wasn't there to come and do whatever his fucking thing was. They're passing around the bowl that everybody's dripping their spit back into and you're drinking the soup out of. I guess this is what I'm doing. He's like,
oh, is that what they did in that one?
Like, all sorts of fucking shit. He said it was wild. Like a couple of ones he went to, like these sweat lodges, and actually one he was at, he said there was a bunch of guys from the pen that were there helping with the sweat lodge, and that was kind of like part of their treatment program.
Well, it's healing.
Exactly, you get to
Ceremony,
do this,
right?
But they weren't getting to heal. They weren't getting to be part of the ceremony. They were doing all the slave work. They were like, no, you go get all the food. You cut the fucking firewood. Every time you talk to someone, it better be yes sir, or chief, or elder, or whatever the fucking term you're supposed to use. They better be doing that, or you're not coming back out for the program, and you're not going to get to do any of the stuff we're doing. You get to come here and be part of it and see it, and yeah, this white guy's going to go with us. You guys don't get to, though. You guys didn't earn it yet.
Yeah,
you guys
that's
already
fair.
fucked up and are sitting on the outside looking in. We're going to let you come into part of this.
Well,
and
you're welcome this far.
Eventually, you're going to get there, but you're going to have to jump through our hoops. You want to be part of our world. And I was like, that's cool, you know, because it's like, that's how you keep your fucking traditions. First off, is by doing shit like that, you know, like not just letting everybody participate. You have to show that you want it a little bit.
You have to gatekeep to some degree.
And for something like that, it's physically small. It's a small field. There's at most a couple hundred people there. You know, it isn't a whole society you're trying to keep people out of, or a whole neighborhood. It's this one thing that's there for a fucking weekend that if you're not here to do what we're here to do, be gone. And I fucking love that shit because that makes people who they are. It also gives them some fucking perspective when you get out of the regular world and you go and do those little weird fringe things that you only get to be part of if you fucking put the work in. And a lot of people don't know the value in that.
So that goes back to my theory, and I know it's politically incorrect, that I believe that like segregated spaces and individual spaces are important for people to maintain some culture. Sure. And I don't know if you want to carry that over to the macro level where nations should be able to have this is our culture. This is French culture. This is like, you know, Scandinavian culture. This is Japanese culture. This is Mexican culture. And the idea of that whitewashing or that leveling of all culture and all borders and people are all one people and there's a global community. I don't know if I necessarily buy that because I think that really robs the individual of who they are. And then there's this collective us, the big us. And that when you say that idea of the collective us, that means the collective morality all has to be the same, the collective entertainment, the collective language, the collective standards. And if you do something that goes against that collective individual, sorry, that's problematic. You're making these people over here feel excluded. And I have issues with that on a core level. And I don't even care who are the people that are saying, hey, this is an indigenous ceremony. If you're coming to our ceremony, you're respecting our ways. And if you don't want to respect our ways, that's cool. You don't have to be here. But if you're going to be here, respect our ways. And that carries over to some people that say, hey, this is our country. These are our standards. If you're going to be here, please respect our ways.
With that, though, like a country is such a much bigger concept.
I consider it the same principles on a macro and the micro.
See, it's tough though because especially a country like Canada, what is our society? What is our culture? Then,
North America is multicultural. I'm going to say that right from the get-go.
It has to be, right? That's what it is.
Or unless we really respecting indigenous ways.
Wow, fuck. And that would be kind of the point, I thought, too, right? It was for freedom. It was to practice what you wanted to and do what you wanted to. But then again, the colonial fucking aspect of it is, but within our parameters.
White Christian.
Yeah,
Christian ways of doing things.
Did we forget to put that on there?
See, that's one of my big things. Is like, I was born on this land. I literally was born like 7 kilometers away from where we're recording this. So it's pretty... This is where I was born. So I feel obligated, and my entire life I've been rootless. what's my culture? You know, some mismatch European smash up of like immigrants and settlers. So the only real thing I have is the place I was born, the land that I grew up on. I should have some connection to the soil I walk on and the water that I drink, right? And this animist course has been bringing that back, where it's like, you need to learn the culture of the land that you're on. You know what I mean? This is the culture of the land that we're on. And I'm not going to be so presumptuous to think that I can just walk into ceremony, like First Nation ceremony, and be like, blah, blah, blah. I've been invited to sweats, you know, like, hey, come out, check this out. But you got to realize that you're going to be a settler, and it's a big deal if you show up here, right? You are invited, but do it with respect. And I think that maybe I'll go there, or maybe I won't. Because what are those cultural traditions that we have? Biker culture, punk rock culture, subculture, is us creating a culture, creating a tradition inside a society where we don't have roots. So these are the roots that we've kind of identified with. The tattooed white boys with loud machines and fucking, you know, getting rowdy and moshing and, you know, that kind of stuff. We've accepted, you know, hot rod culture, whatever it is, leather jackets and spiked vests or all of that. That's what we've created as a culture. You know, our elders are Henry Rollins. You know, all of those guys, and we listen to our elders, and we've got our stories, and we've got our music, and our traditions, and our foods, and our norms. But that's not deep. That's
not even of a place. You know what I mean? That same kind of dichotomy is happening all over the world with people that are into that same scene, right? So because again, it kind of gets to the point of how ridiculous it is to act like there is a societal norm attached to a chunk of land. On this land, this is what we do. You go across this imaginary border, this is what we do. You go across this one, this is what we do.
But I don't mean to take away, but there are specific plants, there are specific mountain ranges, there's specific water, and like depending on that angle that you want to take, the relationship that those people have with that specific geography, you know, the animals that they interact with, the animals that they literally ate and fed off of, or that ate and fed off of them. I think there is that on some level, that needs to be taken into account. The relationship of the individual land that you are on, you know, the ancestral land, blood or otherwise.
I
right?
agree. That's what dictated much of our culture for a while, was just where did you live? You know, white Vikings wear furs and shit. Well, because it was cold. You know what I mean? Like, why would you wear a loincloth? Well, because it's fucking hot. You know, but then is that your cultural dress, or is that the cultural dress of this climate? Is that what you need to wear to survive at this fucking altitude?
Yin and yang, right? Is it purely like a physical thing, or is it also like the connection that you have with where you are from, you know, or where generations after generations after generations evolve from? Like what a generation's 25, 30 years? Yeah. So that's like, 4 to 3 generations in 100 years that Canada's been operating, that settlers have been here, as opposed to the 12,000 years that the First Nations people have been here. Yep. So I'd like to think that they've got a closer link with the ebb and flow of the seasons in Saskatchewan, or the seasons in Canada, and they say, oh, this plant will heal this plant causes this plant causes this, and there's that link between the animals that live on a continent and the ones that are feral, or not feral, but imposed, non-native, invasive species. And you can look at settlers much like an invasive strain of Homo sapiens, as opposed to the Homo sapiens that have been living generation after generation after generation on a land. Yep. And so you look at you
look at anybody who goes to climb Everest. Their Sherpas aren't wearing fucking gas masks and shit, right? But they need them. You know?
So I think that stuff's valid when like not necessarily to like a racist kind of like ours is better than yours, but we have to accept the fact that like different people are built differently, and like there is I think that this is just an opinion, comes back from that shamanic animist thing, but I think there is a connection between the people and the land, you know. I gotta choose my words wisely, because I don't want to say blood and soil, but the people.
Well, I think it's still like we were saying earlier, just talking about even, you know, February show. You know what I mean? That's of this land that you can have that experience. You can't have that same dark, deep fucking February experience in California.
Yeah. When it gets like dark at 4 p.m. or 5 p.m. and it's going to be dark till 10 a.m. and it's going to be cold as fuck, there's a certain personality that arises from that, you know? And this is an interesting one, because a lot of like the First Nations indigenous people knew to get the fuck out of Dodge when February was coming around, when like that's why these things like the solstices and the equinoxes were important, you know? These tribal things are like, oh, this is the planting season, this is the harvesting season. season, and this is the time when the leaves start changing, we go towards where the sun rises. You know, and we keep going towards the sun rises till we get over those mountains, because we're going to be able to survive all winter when we get there, because you don't want to be in fucking Saskatchewan too late, right? But then these crazy fucking settlers show up, and they create permanent residence here, you know, and so
well, and that's more of our colonial shit, right? That I need to have my land to prove I exist, right? I need to have a fucking chunk of land, and now this is mine, and I'm putting a fence or a fucking wall around it, and no one else can come in, and this is mine. But to do that, you have to build this crazy fucking infrastructure that's going to withstand all this shit, and then you have to build all the shit around you that's going to feed this fucking thing that you're trying to grow.
How are you going to get water into your house when everything's frozen?
You got to plumb it. You got to move it. You got to build a bunch of tributaries and shit, you know, like. Yeah, no, and that's interesting too, like the idea of just being at balance with the nature around you, you know, like instead of like, it's getting cold, all right, we're building a bigger fucking warmer house. It's like, or do you just go someplace where it's warmer?
Yeah.
But again, those places you're going to go to now have also been colonized and belong to fucking somebody that's going to go, no, you don't get to camp in my fucking field.
See, and that's just it, that entire property idea, right? That property where I own this. Like the First Nations thing is you own whatever you can carry away on your horse. Because otherwise you're going to have to fucking leave it. You know what I mean? It might be here next year when we come back if we can find the same place that we camped at. But otherwise, that's all you own. Wherever you are, that's where you are. And I think those are very important principles that we've forgotten. You know, we like to attribute our identity to my house, my job, my property, my car, my fucking, you know, partner, whatever. Like that's who I am. You know, this is who I am. And if you challenge my house, my job, my property, and my partner, you're literally challenging me.
Yeah.
Well,
you're challenging the outward fucking representation of my psyche at this point. I worked hard to get this house. I pictured this truck for fucking months before I went and got it. You know, like this
or I
is
put a
shit
lot of energy into this becoming an
world.
expression of me.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then you're gonna talk shit about my shutters or my fucking my shingles, you know,
my nation, my religion,
yeah.
You know,
Right,
and that's an expression of me.
And even if it's a mild criticism, it's still an attack. Is how a person takes it, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
even if they never meant, oh, geez, your shingles look kind of fucked. That was a passing thought. And you're like, hey, well, fuck you. How about? You know, like,
fuck you.
You know
Wanna
what my
go?
fucking mortgage payment is?
Yeah. You know how much I've suffered to get this, you know, and that's a valid point, because there is a lot of suffering and sacrifice of a person that has to do that in order to get ahead in this capitalist system and this colonial system, where you do sacrifice your spirit, your time, your energy, your physical presence in order to achieve and to earn some semblance of worth in the colonial capitalist system. So that time that you've sacrificed your energy, your life to get some element of property, you equate that, you know, my property is my life, and if you attack my property, you're attacking the part of my life that it took to acquire this property.
Well, and I think that's why people get so defensive about their stuff too.
Yeah.
I shoot somebody for fucking breaking and stealing my truck or whatever, that kind of mentality. But it's like,
I worked for 3 years to afford that truck.
Exactly. It's not just the truck that's lost. It's all the time and effort and bullshit you put into to try and get there. And you're like, well, it's all been wiped away because somebody's an asshole. And that's hard for people to deal with. But again, that's their projection. That's what you're picturing. When in the reality of it, well, no, it's just that vehicle's gone.
It's just that thing, but they've got it linked with the time and energy that it went into that thing. And it's also difficult when that's a colonial mentality and you're coming up against, let's say, at least in our community, 12,000 years of non-colonial mentality of saying, hey, you got something I need. You know, or you're using something that I also need. I'm going to use that thing, okay? And so these principles of theft and these principles of like, hey man, you're walking on my land, or hey man, you're hunting on my land. Like, no, I'm just hunting. What do you mean your land? You know, like I thought the land owned us. You know, like we don't own this. This owns us. You know,
right.
So that those are two worldviews
The
that are
land paying you
colliding.
rent?
Yeah, all right.
You're paying rent on this shit, man.
Yeah. It's going to be here when you're gone. You know, so that's kind of a weird world view where, and it's been happening right from the get-go of colonialism. You know, these indigenous people aren't paying attention to our colonial property, principles of property. They're not staying in the little box that we wanted them to stay in. You invented a box. You put it's like me saying, you know, there's a circle in the air. Yeah. Don't step outside the circle, or don't breathe air out of the circle. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? And that's exactly the same principle. If you want to talk about conceptualizing the idea of land ownership, if suddenly somebody said, you know what, I own the air above your house, you know, and if if that tree grows into the air, you owe me money. And if your house gets built a second story, you owe me money because I own that air. And the idea of us, like colonial settlers, saying, well, nobody owns the air. Like, no, I own the air. Well, why do you own the air? Well, because I said I own the air. Yeah. I made a piece of paper that said I own the air.
Paperwork.
I got the paperwork. You don't need to
fees.
sign. You don't need to agree. It's our system.
Yeah.
Like, or you now I'm giving you an oxygen tax because I think you're breathing the air that I own. Well, who said that you fucking own the air? Right? That's all it was.
Yeah. And all we're saying here is just you don't have to wear a mask then. You can just
Yeah.
yeah. But I mean that's real oppression, right? As opposed to we want you to try and keep everybody else safe as best you can.
So yeah, you got this idea of like increased colonialism, increased taxes, increased interest, increased all of this like burden of paying somebody else for the right to fucking exist versus the pre-colonial systems that are just like, we're all alive here. We're all alive here. Let's get in contact with each other. Let's get in contact with our fucking land. Let's build connections versus building this like weird make money for the monstrosity that we've created, you know? And my one buddy, he's like, nobody's even running the show. We created a monstrosity that runs itself. It's profit for profit's sake, and nobody's, because you got conspiracy-minded people that there's a little cabal of people that are like making all of the money and making all these decisions. But then his idea is that it's the system itself that is doing this, and there's shareholders that profit, but the system is just running itself. We created a monstrous
And everybody
machine.
who's part of it all continues to fucking feed it.
Yes, we created a monstrous machine, and the machine itself isn't really being. Nobody's at the helm. It's just driving.
Well, yeah.
forward.
So even with colonialism, you could argue back then it was the king or a queen that was driving this shit, right?
'Cause it
Now,
was profit.
Now there's not one person you can point to save because it's so
an
multiple.
economic system. It's a model,
Yeah.
right?
And even a lot of times the ones where you think have power and control, you like a prime minister or somebody like that, and you're like, you start going, well, no, they don't really make a lot of these fucking decisions. There's lots of lobbyists and lots of people.
They're a
pulling their fucking
figurehead
strings.
that basically does a check mark at what everybody else pushes towards them, you know. And you're the guy. That's just it. Trump isn't making these decisions. He's got a fucking cabal of fucking idiots that are encouraging him to sign stupid shit. Nobody's looking at the power behind the throne. They're just looking at the puppet that's a figurehead, you know? And he's a doofus. You know what I mean? He's a fucking doofus. I can't believe they must love him. They must love him because he's going to be such a great patsy. You know, like this guy isn't smart enough to be pulling like military fucking, you know, drag off the street disappearances and stuff like that in Portland. He didn't come up with that.
And that
Trump's America. Fuck, he doesn't
Well, he's
know.
just fed it. You know what I mean? That's like shit ICE's been doing for fucking years. And then he said, well, let's get all the Mexicans in.
Yeah.
Right? And then it was like, well, who else is giving me trouble? Protesters?
Yeah.
Cool, let's just transition it now.
It's a
So
happy
they've
fascism.
already been doing this. They've already been fucking doing this. They've just got a guy who doesn't realize that there's checks and balances, and there hasn't been any. Guy gets fucking impeached and he still gets to be president.
Yeah.
I don't know, man.
Fuck, it's we're. Do you see any of the Kanye West news release or presidential? What is it called? Or what is it called? The rally that he had. Man, Harriet Tubman didn't free any slaves, and that like, oh yeah, he's going off, and like people are like, we're out now. Fuck this guy. Like he's a whack job, and like I think idiocracy. Every time I see you watch the media from the States, like this is a spectacle. It's a spectacle, and yeah, and it's just like. It's looking more and more plastic the more I watch this shit. It's like, is this real life?
Yeah.
Because none of these people are competent enough to make executive decisions for themselves, let alone the fucking North America.
And it's opened up an area where a lot of people who do have bad intentions can finally do those things they wanted to do.
Yeah. See, and that's a removal of merit. It's a removal of, what are your credentials to get into this fucking position of power? Oh, I'm popular. I'm a billionaire.
Yeah.
I write rap songs.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck? And you know, yeah. For some reason, a whack job president allowed you into the Oval Office. You got some pictures taken, and now you figure that you're a politician too. Like, this is fucking crazy.
I think with the Kanye thing, I think that somebody who is like manic or bipolar, or he's got some, because he's frequently medicated about shit, it seems. And I think that either he's in one of them fucking spirals right now, or somebody is purposely not medicating him properly, because you can hear that guy be lucid and competent, and then you see him do all sorts of crazy shit, and you're like, well, is this a fucking stunt? And then you hear him talking like, oh no, that's what you think.
That's really you, and you're trying to get into like the biggest position of power in the free world, holding like, you know, the keys to like nuclear silos.
Here's a conspiracy fucking angle on that.
He's gonna put Dennis Rodman into his cabinet, and then he's gonna settle it all down with Korea.
No, it's here's the conspiracy angle on that though. That's how you steal votes from whoever the Democratic nominee
you're gonna
is,
split
right?
the election,
because whoever's gonna vote for Trump's gonna vote for Trump, and then there's gonna be people that are like, well, I don't really want to vote for Biden and I can't vote for Trump. Well, you know what, Kanye, I guess whatever, I'll throw a vote at it, and then that's one that doesn't go.
especially for the young urban black vote.
Yep.
That say that maybe aren't necessarily educated in the ins and outs of the political process. They're like, I recognize that guy. He's going to represent us, regardless of what the fuck he's saying. And these are new voters. These are guys for the first time that say, I don't like this guy enough to fucking get involved with the political process. Like, I hate the president. We need him out. I'm getting involved. I'm going to fucking vote. And then suddenly, Whack Jog McGee shows up. It's like, hey, everybody, watch me do some crazy shit, and they'll say, yeah, that guy represents us. Click. And then the whack job stays in power.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's the plan. And
he gives him 4 more years to figure out
jail.
how he's going to stay in power. That's what I'm afraid of.
If anybody at home thinks that he's not going to try and find a way to make his fucking son-in-law or his daughter president after he's gone, you're insane.
Yeah.
That's all he's going to do, because that's going to keep him out of fucking jail. The only thing keeping him out of jail right now is that he's president. That's it. Because they have this goofy fucking idea that, well, if you're a president, you can't go to jail. But when you're not president, you can absolutely go to jail for things you did before your presidency or during your presidency. And that's what's going to happen with him, because his co-conspirator has already gone to fucking jail for a crime they both committed together. And that's one for
wasn't
sure.
he let out?
Cohen, yeah, he fucking was. And that's the other fucking outrageous thing about this. Flynn, Cohen, Stone, all out of fucking... Well, Cohen's back in jail now because he violated his own fucking parole because he's an idiot.
Oh, okay, I wasn't familiar with all of it. Yeah.
The rest of them all got out recently. And like Roger Stone, I don't think even fucking served a day in jail. And it's entirely because he's friends with the president. That's the only fucking reason. Everybody who knows anything about the fucking law looks at this and goes, well, Flynn admitted his fucking guilt. Roger Stone couldn't be more fucking guilty, and nothing like this has ever happened before. But what are you going to do? They already impeached him and he's not out. You can't go to fucking jail, apparently.
So you riot in the streets about the conditions that you're in, but then all of a sudden... military police start dragging people off the streets. I've seen this in other regimes. I've heard about this in other regimes. Yeah,
man.
yeah.
That's
and
what it is.
Just because it's got a happy face stamped on it,
that
red, white, and
fucking,
blue.
was it Eli Wiesel or whatever who had that fucking quote about when they came for the gypsies, we were fine. When they came for this one, and they came for that one, and then they came for me.
There was nobody left.
That's what this fucking shit is. Everybody who was okay with kids being separated from the parents at the border for no reason at all, other than they just thought it would fucking deter people from coming, and then losing them. They've lost thousands of these fucking kids. They don't know where they are. Everybody who was okay with that, well, this is what you get. Yeah. This is the other fucking pendulum swing of that, where it's like, okay, we're going to get these ones that worked here, marginalized, but we're going to get some people...
I'm not an immigrant, so I didn't speak up. Yep. And, oh, wait, I'm not part of the black community, so I'm not speaking up.
Yep.
Oh, wait, I'm not part of the Latino community or any other, marginalized group, Muslim, so I don't speak up. And then suddenly, oh, shit, now they're coming for the leftists?
Yeah.
Well, shit, who's going to speak up for me? And that's exactly it. And, but... I don't know, as a Canadian, watching what's happening in the States, I see riots in the street. And I see people screaming, help us. But everybody's afraid to because their fucking guys got a huge military. They've created a global military system.
And they're doing shit down there that nobody else has done in a fucking free world before, with having police or military without any badging on, with nothing saying what they are, but they've got assault rifles and they're yanking people off the streets.
They could just drag them, put them in unmarked vehicles, and disappear them to wherever the fuck they're taking them to.
Once again, this is shit that all the conspiracy theories said was happening behind the scenes for fucking years, but now it's on television. Mm-hmm. Now we're seeing it happen, and they're going, well, I can't believe that. Well, they must have done something, and okay, I guess you'll find out when they're banging on your fucking door.
Well, we're living in strange times. I thank fucking Christ I'm Canadian. You know what I mean? For now, we'll wait and see, And for that being said, who knows what's going to happen down there? I worry. And I've got American friends that give me shit because I'm so critical of the U.S., politics and, their
What's the matter
system.
to you? It's our fucking president.
I'm like, you don't even understand how much we're inundated with your media, and how much our culture is influenced. I see guys from fucking
it's
Alberta.
Horrifying. Mm-hmm. Even if it was some other fucking country, the same kind of shit was happening on the other side of the world, and it was being kept up on. I'd be watching all the time. What the fuck's Duterte up to today? Yeah. What's Putin doing this afternoon?
If there was riots happening, well, actually, when the riots were happening in Greece, I was like, what the fuck's going on down there? But if it was like, oh, hey, everybody, we got this fucking dimwit as our supreme leader, and he's doing ridiculous shit, and our civil liberties are being tossed out the window. People are getting pepper sprayed while looking out the window of their house, get the fuck in, boof. Okay, yeah, that's stuff that the world notices.
That's not supposed to happen in a forward-thinking society.
No.
In an enlightened group of people, that shit doesn't happen.
Especially as a result of an oppressed, marginalized section of society finally saying, hey, quit oppressing us. And
you want to see fucking oppression?
Yeah, exactly. Can we have less police brutality? We'll show you what happens when you stand up. Oh, okay. But you're a free country. these words like liberty and freedom and, you know, justice and all of these things, they're great lip service to an idea that's propaganda. It's propaganda, because when you actually look at the word liberty and freedom and justice, none of those are happening there, you know. So
very fucking rarely.
all right, so that's our nice gentle
Jesus Christ.
episode today.
We'll wrap up with something light. Yeah.
So what you been listening to? What have you been watching lately, or have you had any downtime?
Fuck, I haven't really been watching anything interesting lately. Still on the podcast while I'm driving all the fucking time, and what the fuck's that one? The Flagrant 2. I've been listening to them a little bit.
Flagrant 2?
Flagrant 2. I can't remember the names of both the dudes, but they're out of the fucking East Coast there, and they're pretty funny. They're a little childish sometimes for fucking my taste, but it's an entertaining listen. So yeah, Flagrant 2, check them shits out. What the fuck else have I been listening to lately? Not much, really, man.
Okay.
Just fucking.
Well, I want to give a shout out to a local business. You know, they're Good Eats. They do what they call comfort food, vegan comfort food in Saskatoon, and it's not my favorite because it's definitely, you know, kind of like high end, you know, street food. You know, like lots of like fried chicken, burgers, that kind of stuff, which isn't my normal dietary stuff. But they're doing it vegan and it's ethical and run by good people. So good food if you get a chance.
Delicious,
fucking good.
Legitimately, their chicken sandwich, I'm using air quotes, is like maybe the best chicken sandwich I've ever had.
Yeah.
It's so fucking good.
I haven't eaten anything like that since I was a little kid, eating a KFC Big Crunch burger when I was like a kid, and then I'm as a grown up saying I don't eat chicken, especially KFC, and then I'm like, oh yeah. So Good Eats in Saskatoon, give them a check out.
Their fake chicken wings are unreal.
Yeah, GUD with the little unalomes or whatever over the. Is that what those are called? I think so. Yeah, omelets. Yeah, something like that. The Motorhead dots, you know them. And so Good Eats in Saskatoon, I'd check them out. You know, they're one of my favorite spots right now. And
they do delivery and shit. I seen their little truck zipping around the other day, and I was all like, I should get some of them chicken wings because fuck, those are good.
Yep, definitely. The 3-piece chicken meal's a bit excessive, but it's fucking good. So yeah. Anyways, check them out. I like them. Karma Cafe is another one downtown. Same thing. They've got the vegan options. So I'm pumping up local vegan, you know, eateries here. Yeah.
Well, and my thing with that is like, even if you don't give a fuck about the concept of being a vegan, if it tastes good, it tastes good.
And Good's a perfect example.
Fucking rights, man. Yeah. You would definitely fool some people with that thing and not tell them.
He told me one time, Chris Cole, he's the guy who runs it. He has one in Regina now and one in Saskatoon. He's like, I made the restaurant so you could take all of your family and everybody's going to enjoy their food and half of them won't even know it's vegan. And I'm like, yeah, that's pretty much it, you know. So.
Right.
Mm-hmm. What do we got coming up next week? Do we have anybody coming, or just us shooting the shit again? Might try and drag out somebody. We totally plan ahead. I have nothing written down. Nothing.
I was asleep till an hour before I got here. I
drag out a guest. Maybe get Savage
Henry.
Henry.
Have to. We'll see. We've been talking about it.
It's a schedule thing. His schedule, my schedule, your schedule.
Well, and I'm still waiting on our fucking interface thing for the multiple mics.
Okay, yeah, we'll do that. We'll wait till that.
Kind of want to do that so then you guys aren't hearing us up and down and who's that talking now? And
let's try and do a Q&A. We'll get together some questions that people have, and you know, like try and do.
Well, that would be interesting, actually.
Yeah. I've had a couple people ask some stuff, but I just kind of put it on the back burner. I'll bring it up in conversation. But if anybody has any questions, be sure to inbox us at either Facebook or Instagram. You know, what other medias that we have? Do we have an email if people want an email?
Too, yep. Bad Ideas, Good Stories Podcast at...
Is it Yahoo?
Gmail.com.
No,
so, Outlook.
Outlook.
Yeah,
okay, so let's say that again.
Stories Podcast at Outlook.com.
Yeah, if you have any questions or anything, feel free to shoot them to us and we'll answer them. You know, if you have questions about stories that we said or any other stuff, you know. That's one thing. One commentary I got is that some people want to hear some more old crazy stories. Ooh. So, yeah, good, bad, or ugly, but I'm sure I could dig up one or two.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a few of those.
Mm-hmm. Robberies, getting robbed, that kind of stuff, you know. Mm-hmm. Crazy life stuff. Mm-hmm. Excuse me. All right.
Cool.
All right. Thanks for coming up.
It was lovely seeing you.
Bye, Five. Love you guys.
Bye, Five.